Again, thank you for your patience. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Development Successor Agency, Calexico Financial Authority open session. It's about 6:44 p.m. June 5th, 2024. Call to order. Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno,
Here.
Council Member Gloria Romo, absent, Council Member Victor Legaspi, Council Member Lisa Thailander.
Here.
Thank you. You can just rise for the pledge. Can I get the little boy to come up for the pledge? Oh, if he wants to, only if he wants to. Want to come up over here? No? Say the pledge? Okay.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then if I can have Ms. Thailander do the mission statement. City mission statement.
City of Calexico mission statement.
Together we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in the purchase of medical matter, improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
Now I'm going to invite Pastor Eduardo Ceseña de la Iglesia Generación Victoriosa to lead us into the invocation.
Amen. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon together with a hopeful and rejoiced heart, knowing that our city has come together as one family to invocate and to lead this meeting. We ask for your wisdom. We ask that this new administration, that you may help them and guide them through every obstacle. We ask for our families. We are hopeful and know that, as your word says, Psalms 33:12, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And we know that our city will be blessed. We ask that our city may become known as a blessed city. We ask that you bless our finances. We ask that you bless everyone in authority. We ask that you bless all first responders. And Lord, we come to you with a heart knowing that you will be with us through everything that comes. We are grateful, and now we receive your blessing, knowing that Calexico is a place that will be known as a city that has opened doors and that has been blessed through you. In Jesus' name we ask, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Ceseña. Vamos a ir a closed session now.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there are no reportable actions. Closed session.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Mayor, I would like to pull some items.
Okay.
So item 14
14.
and item 12,
Okay.
just for some clarification for the public.
Okay.
It's just two items?
Yes.
So 12 and 14.
Oh, and sorry, where is it? Item 9 as well.
So 3 items.
Yes.
Okay. Did you want
9,
those
12,
at the
14.
beginning or the end?
What I'm going to do also, I know there's some people who are here also for item, what is it, 16? Let me just double check. Item 17. So I want to move up 17 to 16. So that way they can have a chance to make comments on that. I know there was a request for them to make sure that, you know. So we're going to add, after After item 17, we'll add the pool items.
Okay?
Okay, so are you okay with that?
They can be at the end. That's fine. Yeah.
So you want them at the end, or doesn't matter?
At the end is fine. Yeah,
Okay.
so we can
Okay.
get through
At
We'll
this.
put them at the end.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you. So, first, by Mr. Legaspi, second. Did I get a second on that one?
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno,
Yes.
Councilmember Gloria Romo absent, Councilmember Victor Legaspi,
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we're gonna move to presentations. Item number 4, presentation of utility box art project. 2, recreational manager.
Good evening, council members, city manager, attorney, and people present. It's a pleasure being here with you tonight. This is a completed project, an Arts in Public Places project, and very ecstatic to be here tonight. I would like to bring at the front our commission, the Community Services Commission members that are here present. If you can please stand on the side, please, my members. And a big shout out.
Name it.
Mr. Alberto Martinez, Chair Pat Ureña, Tony Garcia, and Mr. Iñiguez, thank you for being here tonight. I would like to give a big shout out to Mr. Martinez and also Roxana Pacheco. Roxana Pacheco is not able to be here, but they were instrumental in getting this project done. And for those artists that are here present, as soon as I name your name, if you can please stand also to the side. This is with great joy. Let me show you our project. This is our location number 1. I hope that you guys have seen these utility boxes all around town. This is Cole Boulevard and Andrade Avenue. This is Dancing West by Michael Romero. If he's present, he can come to the front. The pictures are the before and after. And this is himself next to his box. Oops, I think I pressed twice. I did. Our second location is Cole Boulevard and Rancho Frontera Avenue, and title is Harvesting Hope by Eddie Schiffer. This is him next to his box. Third location is Cole Boulevard and Rockwood Avenue in front of Jack in the Box. And this is Better to Light a Candle Than to Curse the Darkness by Sergio Ojeda, if he's present. I don't see him. And this is Sergio next to his box. Yes. Our fourth box is at Cole Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard. La Magia del Desierto by Brittany Coronel, and she's here. Our fifth location is Cole Boulevard and Portico Boulevard, Under the Sun and Moon by Esteban Ojeda. Our sixth location is Cesar Chavez Boulevard and Grand Street, Calexico, Lumbre y Lucha by Brian Favela Luna. Our seventh location is 2nd Street and Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Look up, Luis Silva. Our eighth location is 2nd Street and Grand Plaza Way, Coy by Scarlett Valtierra. And finally, the last one is 2nd Street and Grand Plaza Circle, Frida's Loving Friends by Elizabeth Briceño Cota. Council, this was a project of 9 utility boxes, and thank you to the winning artists. We have your certificates of recognition if the city council can be here, and also my commissioners and the artists present, if you can be here in the middle so that you can receive your certificates for the pictures, or maybe up there.
I suggest you do it up here so that everybody, because that one is gonna be in the middle. However you wanna do it. Okay. You wanna,
The screen, Carla?
And if the commissioners maybe right here, so we should get you also in the picture, or at least get some camera exposure.
The screen.
no, he's gonna do it. That's fine. He's gonna do it.
Ready?
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move on to the second presentation, which is receive and file 2022-23 audited financial statements, and that's by the interim finance director.
We ready? Good evening, Mayor and fellow City Council members, and
Good evening.
those in attendance. We're now here to present a presentation for the audit of the City of Calexico for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. So some of the things we'll be going through is some required communications required by the auditing standards under AUC 260, some audit responsibility, that's like both management's responsibilities as well as the auditors, an overview of the financial statements, some financial indicators and key pension and OPEB information, as well as the audit results.
El contenido de esta presentación será comunicaciones requeridas del AU-C 260, responsabilidades de auditoría, descripción general de los estados financieros, indicadores financieros e información clave sobre pensiones, OPEB, resultados de la auditoría.
go into some required communications. So one of the communications is independence. As auditors, we're required to be independent at all times from the entity we're auditing. So we did comply with all the relevant requirements regarding independence. Significant accounting policies. Those policies that if you really want to get a good idea of the whole financial statement, really go into note 1. That kind of gives you the best description of the whole city and some of those significant accounting policies in note 1 to the financial statements. Some significant estimates to prepare the financial statements. Management is required to make certain estimates, and the significant estimates in the audit this year were related to the fair market value of investments, the depreciation on capital assets, that's the useful lives, how long they're good for, and the net other post-employment benefit liability and net pension liability, which are both kind of based on actuarial assumptions and assumptions set by CalPERS so.
Comunicaciones requeridas durante la auditoría por el AU-C, la independencia. Cumplimos con todos los requisitos relevantes en materia de la independencia. Políticas contables importantes. La ciudad reveló todas las políticas contables importantes en la nota 1 de los estados financieros. Estimaciones significativas, valor razonable de las inversiones, depreciación de activos de capital, otros pasivos netos por prestaciones post-empleo y pasivo neto por pensiones.
Some additional communications required. Sensitive disclosures. So in this year's annual financial report, some of the sensitive disclosures you'll note is, as previously discussed, the Note 1 summary of significant accounting policies. Note 3, that's the lease receivable. That was a new note last year from GASB, the implementation of GASB 87. As always, note 10 and 11, the pension plans and other post-employment benefits are pretty sensitive because of their nature. Note 12 is going to be your commitments and contingencies. That's any commitments, construction commitments, or any kind of legal contingencies or liabilities that might exist at 6/30/2023. And note 15, you'll note that includes any kind of expenditures that exceeded appropriations, as well as any kind of a deficit fund balance. And then as for misstatements, there was no uncorrected misstatements reported, so no misstatements noted during the audit.
Más requerimientos de comunicación, divulgaciones confidenciales. Nota 1, resumen de políticas contables significativas. Nota número 3, arrendamiento por cobrar. Nota número 10, planes de pensiones. Nota 11, otros beneficios post-empleo. Nota 12, compromisos y contingencias. Nota 15, otras divulgaciones requeridas. Las declaraciones erróneas no se reportaron ningún error sin corregir.
Some additional communication. So consultation with other accountants. As the management informed us, and to our knowledge, there was no consultations with other accountants regarding auditing or other matters. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management during the audit, and we also we did not have any disagreements with management in terms of accounting treatments or audit procedures performed during the audit.
No hubo, a lo que ellos, así no hubo ninguna consulta con otros contadores. La gerencia nos informó que hasta donde sabemos no hubo consultas con otros contadores con respecto a auditoría y otros asuntos. Dificultades significativas, no encontramos dificultades significativas en el trato con la dirección. Desacuerdos con la gerencia, no tuvimos ningún desacuerdo con la administración en términos de tratamientos contables o procedimientos de auditoría realizados.
So we're going to some of the audit responsibilities. First with management. So management's responsible for the financial statements. They're responsible to present the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, to adopt sound accounting policies, establish and maintain internal controls over financial reporting and compliance, and also to provide evidence supporting the amounts and disclosures within the financial statements, and to prevent and detect fraud.
Responsables de los estados financieros. Presentar los estados financieros de acuerdo con principios de contabilidad generalmente aceptados en los Estados Unidos de América. Adoptar políticas contables sólidas. Establecer y mantener controles internos sobre los informes financieros y el cumplimiento. Proporcionar evidencia que respalde los montos y revelaciones en los estados financieros. Y prevenir y detectar fraude.
Now into the auditor's responsibilities. Us as auditors, we are responsible to form and express an opinion about whether the financial statements that have been prepared by management with council oversight are presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. We're also responsible to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance, about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatements. We're also responsible to consider the internal control over financial reporting and compliance. Such considerations were solely the purpose of determining our audit procedures and not to provide any assurance concerning such internal control.
Las responsabilidades de los auditores es formar y expresar una opinión sobre si los estados financieros que han sido preparados por la administración con la supervisión de la Junta se presentan de manera justa en todos los aspectos importantes, de acuerdo con los principios de contabilidad generalmente aceptados en los Estados Unidos de América. Planificar y realizar la auditoría para obtener una seguridad razonable, no una seguridad absoluta, sobre si los estados financieros están libres de errores materiales. Consideración al control interno sobre los informes financieros. Dichas consideraciones tuvieron como único fin determinar nuestros procedimientos de auditoría y no proporcionar ninguna seguridad con respecto a dicho control interno.
So now I have an overview of the financial statements. So an overview, this year is a condensed statement of a net position for fiscal year ending June 30, 2023, as well as June 30, 2022. You'll note the ending assets. So this is the city as a whole. The ending assets was about 261 million. That was about about an $8 million increase from the prior year. The main component of that increase is that there was a $11 million cash and investment increase from year to year, relating to some LTA Measure D revenue and also the second tranche of ARPA funding being received by the city. Your deferred outflows of resources. So the next three areas, the largest change I'm going to discuss is going to mainly relate to pension and specifically related to CalPERS in the fiscal year 2022 losing money. So when CalPERS loses money, you will note that the deferred outflows will increase because there is an offset, so the difference between the 7.9 or the 6.9% expected rate and then the rate of actual earnings, when there's less earnings than that, you'll note that that goes into deferred outflows of resources, and that's the primary reason for that $8.3 million increase there. And that is amortized over a 5-year period, so they try to smooth it out if it's either deferred outflow or deferred inflow. So that is the main reason there was an $8 million increase on deferred outflows related specifically to the pension. Your liabilities had ended with about $115 million. That was about a $13 million increase, and the primary component of that was pension, which was a $17 million increase, which had two components, which is both the kind of the loss that it suffered as well as the change in the discount rate from 7.15 to 6.9. So that means, so when you see a later slide, when you see sensitivity of the discount rate, you'll notice that just this year it went down, so it's moving more in a downward trajectory than an upward. So that's something to note. Deferred inflows of resources ended with about 11.1 million in the current year. That was a decrease of about 14.4 million, and you'll note that the pension-related deferred inflows of resources decreased 13 million, because you'll note in fiscal year 21, CalPERS had a significantly high during COVID, a significantly high earnings over the estimate. So it actually went from like deferred inflows then to deferred outflows this year because it was a really big jump. So the total net position. So your net investment in capital assets, which is going to be your capital assets net of any kind of related debt, that pretty much stayed pretty much the same, about 120 million. Restricted, so that's going to be a restricted net position, which is anything that's legally restricted by a grant agreement, restricted by the city council, ended with about 41 million. And then that was an increase of about $7 million. And I noted that the largest increases there was the FEMA ARPA fund restricted, increased about 3.5 million, and the LTA Measure D fund and the governmental funds increased about 2 million. So your unrestricted deficit, even though it says the increase is a positive, it's actually kind of in the right direction. So it's going back towards being a positive number. So it ended at about a deficit of about 11.4 million. So the total net position from year to year increased $17 million from year to year.
En esta gráfica verán que es la posición neta condensada en totalidad de la ciudad. Los activos, la diferencia entre 2023 y 2022 fueron de 7.9 millones. Las salidas diferidos de recursos fueron del 15.1 al 6.8. Los pasivos están desde el 100.1 al 115 con una diferencia de 13.7 millones. Entradas diferidas de recursos fue del 25.6 al 11.1. La posición neta, inversión neta de activos de capital fueron de 119.8 a 120.4. Lo restringido de 33.6 a 41.0. La posición neta total de 133.0 subió al 150.0, que es en un camino bueno.
So now we're going to move on to the statement of activities, still at that government-wide level. So your expenses from year to year, and you'll note that there was a decrease in expenses. You'll note that these expenses also include the government-wide conversion entries, which is going to be any changes related to pension. A lot of those items which are actuarially determined and determined by, say, the market, as opposed when we get to the general fund, you'll actually see things that are budgeted, like dollar for dollar. So this is a little, it includes items that are determined by factors that are not 100% controllable by the city. But it did decrease from year to year. Looking at the charges for services, about 20.6 million. That stayed pretty much the same from year to year. And operating grants and contributions decreased slightly, and then to 7.7 million, and then the capital grants and contributions also decreased slightly to 6.9 million. So the overall program revenues, and the program revenues are called program revenues because they're typically revenues that you can specifically associate with expenses. There's specific expenses that are going to relate to that program revenue, as opposed to general revenues, which do not have specific expenses that are typically allocated to them. You'll note this net cost of services ratio that we're going to come to at a later slide, which in essence is when you take your expenses, how much of the expenses is paid by program revenues. So you'll note the net cost of services was about 2.3 million when you take the actual expenses and then revenues that can be directly allocated to those expenses. So that decreased about 1.7 million in the current year. The general revenue taxes increased slightly to 17.7 million, about $900,000 increase. And you note, as we discussed, the fiscal year 22 overall market, CalPERS had a bad year, so did pretty much everyone else. So you'll know the investment earnings, which came back up in 2023, increased about 1.5 million in the current year. Miscellaneous, this is gonna be just miscellaneous expenses or any kind of gain loss on sale of capital assets, vary about 32,000. But your overall change in net position from year to year increased 4 million, but the change in net position in the current year was actually $17 million.
A la comparación de los gastos desde 2022 al 2023 hubo un cambio de 3.6 millones. Los programas, los ingresos de programas se mantuvieron más o menos al margen. El servicio neto de costo hubo un cambio de 1.7. Los impuestos aumentaron un poco del 2022 al 2023 con $889,000. Las inversiones, los ingresos de inversiones aumentaron con un 1.4 millones y los otros ingresos aumentaron $20,742 con un cambio en la posición neta con 4.09.
Question on that, on the taxes. What type of taxes are we talking about?
Taxes
On the net
includes
cost of services, right below?
property tax, sales tax.
Property tax, sales
TOT,
tax?
franchise, and.
All of them combined?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
and they're broken out if you look in the report and the statement
Yeah.
of activities, and that's just like the combined.
So all of these are combined?
Yeah,
Thank you.
so we'll move on to the general fund, starting with the balance sheet from year to year. I'd say overall, there wasn't any significant changes in the balance sheet from year to year. There was a slight decrease in cash to about 1.3 million in the current year. Other assets, which is everything except for cash, increased to about 700,000 of 3.3 million. I believe mainly receivables. Total liabilities barely changed to ended with about $860,000 at the end of the year. Your deferred inflows or resources for your general fund, which is either going to be your lessor receivable leases or your unavailable revenue, and that slightly decreased to about $350,000 in the current year. Your fund balance, so your non-spendable fund balance is going to typically be any kind of inventories and prepaids, was about 69,000 at the end of the year, which remained relatively unchanged. The assigned fund balance, so the assigned fund balance is going to be the fund balance that the city council has the authority. Committed fund balance, which you guys don't have any, is when the city council actually commits a balance, and it commits a fund balance, and that has to be done through action of the city council. Assigned fund balance is authorized to the person that typically the city council will authorize, which is usually the city manager, to assign fund balances. An unassigned fund balance, that's just going to be the residual. So you'll see assigned fund balances increase slightly to 228,000, about $149,000 increase. And you'll note that the unassigned fund balance, which is also known as kind of like your rainy day fund, you'll see a ratio that comes up in a later slide for that. And that increased from year to year 15%, which is good.
Ahora nos pasamos al fondo general. Los activos efectivo e inversiones disminuyeron con el $322,000. Otros activos subieron a $714,000. Entrada diferida de recursos en total bajaron a $160,000 y el pasivo total y saldo del fondo en totalidad aumentaron a $391,967,000.
So we'll go on to the general fund condensed statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. So you'll note the revenues from year to year, there was about a $1 million increase in the revenues of the general fund from year to year. As far as expenditures, there was a $1.4 million decrease, which was an increase revenues over expenditures of about $2 million. So from each last year and this year, you've about 2.5 million each year revenues over expenditures. Although there are those transfers out each year, which about 1.5 each year million. And so you'll note the overall change in fund balance has been between a 500,000 and $1 million, but you'll note the current year is $500,000 increase from the prior year.
Los ingresos del Fondo General del 2022 al 2023 hubo un cambio de 1.0 millones. Los gastos hubo un aumento de 1.4. El Fondo Neto General, en el Fondo General hubo un cambio de negativo 352,939,000.
So now we'll move on to some key financial indicators and key pension and OPEB information. Our first ratio that we're going to look at is going to be your net cost of services to tax revenue. As I stated, that net cost of service amount, that's going to be your expenses at the government-wide level, net your program revenues, which are like charges for services, operating grants and contributions, capital grants and contributions, things that are specifically allocable to expenditures. And the reason you really do this ratio is because those program revenues, the city council has a larger ability to affect the program revenues, like any kind of like rate changes or stuff like that, as opposed to tax revenues, which is going to be your property tax and sales tax. Aside from doing like tax measures, it's more difficult to change those. So we look at kind of the amount of tax revenue versus your net cost of services. So here, any ratio below 100% is good, but here you're well over that, and it really just means that your tax revenues are sufficient to cover any kind of net cost of providing services without dipping into that position or relying on investment earnings or any kind of miscellaneous income. So you'll see both years you had an excess of about $10 million, and you also note, I believe, that the change in net position was that, if not higher, so it's a good spot to be.
La proporción del 2022 fue de 45.23 y el del 2023 38.34. Una proporción inferior al 100% es buena, significa que los ingresos fiscales son suficientes para cubrir el costo neto de la prestación de servicios sin tener que recurrir a la posición neta ni depender de ganancias de inversiones o ingresos varios.
Now we'll go on to the unassigned fund balance to annual expenditures. This is kind of like your rainy day fund ratio. So as we stated, the general fund unassigned fund balance is going to be your residual fund balance when you remove any kind of non-spendable committed fund balances. But here at the city, it's going to be about 68,000 of non-spendable, and then that assigned fund balance, which gives you your unassigned fund balance. It gives you your rainy day fund that if you need to tap into it, if something happens to the economy, then you're able to. The GFOA states that a preferred bottom ratio is 20%, but the city, over having audited for a few years now, it's been increasing and increasing. If we had multiple years behind that, you'd see a gradual increase. So I think it'll be at the 20% pretty soon.
Este es el no asignado, el balance del Fondo General. El índice se calcula de manera ligeramente diferente al cálculo realizado por el personal de la ciudad. Excluye la reserva asignada de la medida H y tiene otras diferencias con el cálculo de la reserva del Fondo General preparado por el personal de la ciudad. Sin embargo, tanto su metodología como la de la ciudad muestran mejores índices de saldos de fondos durante el año fiscal. Una proporción preferida es un 20%. La ciudad en el 2022 estuvo en el 15.3 y en el 2023 estuvo en el 16.41 y gradualmente va subiendo.
Now we'll get into some pension information. So this is the sensitivity analysis for the net pension liability. As stated previously, that this year you'll note there was a change in assumption because the discount rate went from 7.1% down to 7.15 down to 6.9%. That discount rate is the city, it's the CalPERS boards who chooses that based on long-term assumptions and different factors. But you'll note if there was an and they just had a decrease, so I don't believe there's a decrease expected for at least a few more years. But it was only 0.25%, and anytime they change it, I believe it's going to be on that 0.25%. But you'll note, if there was an entire percentage increase in the discount rate, you'll note that the pension liability goes down. That means they're making more on the investments. If there's a decrease in discount rate, that means the fiduciary funds they have to pay off the benefits are making less money, so they'll increase. So you'll go from 35 down to 21 or up to 52, depending on the percentage. Next, we're going to look at the funded ratio, and everywhere pretty much had the same situation happen due to that giant loss that CalPERS had in 22. So you'll see the funded ratio, and what that means is that your fiduciary net position, that's all the assets they have, compared to the total pension liability, which is going to be the actually determined cost to pay all pension benefits to all employees or pension participants forever. It's the percentage of that net position versus the total. So it was at 82%. It'd be great to be at 100. Most people are actually lower, but then you'll note that in the current year it did decrease because of that loss CalPERS had.
En esta filminas están hablando ya de los estándares de las pensiones y está hablando del plan de miscellaneous y el plan de seguridad. El año pasado el de general fue de 85.8% y el de seguridad fue de 82.86%.
Next, we'll get into the OPEB standard. So you'll note that with the total OPEB standard, in a similar situation, if there was an increase or a decrease, so the bottom one is going to be the increase and the top is going to be the decrease. You'll note that the pension, it pretty much stayed pretty much the same. There was a slight change in the discount rate. The one thing to note, though, is that the city in fiscal year 23, they did invest in an OPEB trust. So it's the first year they have a trust. And once you start to get those trust benefits up, because if you don't have any trust, you're using the municipal bond rate, which is very low. But once you start to get that trust up and you're going to make you're make earnings off the trust, then the discount rate will go up, which means that the liability will go down. So that is just something to note that they did implement that this year, which was a good thing to implement.
En esta filmina pueden ver la posición fideicomisa neta por porcentaje de total del pasivo OPEB. Del año pasado fue 4.0 y cambió un poco a 4.27. La ventaja que tuvo la ciudad fue que invirtió en OPEB en 2023 abriendo una cuenta de fideicomiso para apoyarse en las responsabilidades de la ciudad.
So now on to the audit results. So the main audit results, the opinion, unmodified opinion, issued to all opinion units. So this is a clean opinion. This is what you're looking for. Really what this says is the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. The accounting policies have been consistently applied. Estimates used are reasonable, and the disclosures are properly reflected in the financial statement.
Estas son las opiniones de los auditores, opiniones no modificadas emitidas a todas las unidades de opinión. Los estados financieros se presentan razonablemente en todos los aspectos importantes. Las políticas contables se han aplicado consistentemente. Las estimaciones utilizadas son razonables. Las revelaciones se reflejan adecuadamente en los estados financieros.
On to the other results. Once again, I stated before, there's no disagreements with management. No material weaknesses were identified in internal control or financial reporting or compliance. There was no accounting issues and no inappropriate activities were noted. We did note that there were 2 significant deficiencies identified in internal control or financial reporting or compliance. Starting with the second one, if you look at the single audit report, it's going to be 2023-002, I believe, and it's going to be on the timely reporting for airport reports. That it wasn't even a major program in the current year, but we are required to kind of review the correct, verify the changes were made, but by the time when we started in the spring of 2020, when we started in the spring of 2023 on the 2020, and we started in the spring, I believe, no, when we finished the 2022 audit and gave them the audit findings, that was already after the point, and told them about it, that was already after the point that they would have had to do that reporting. That made it a finding for the second year. So it really wasn't a new finding. It was just, and it's not really, they couldn't have even changed anything to fix the finding. It was just there. So then we'll go to the second finding, which is going to be a 2023-001, and that's just going to be the delay in financial reporting. Single audits are required to be issued by March 31st. I believe we are pretty close to that deadline, and the city is getting better and better at that. And I think the goal on that's just, I believe the corrective action is just to maybe start a little earlier. It was a very smooth audit, and I want to thank the finance department for all the help they have, but we didn't have any difficulties, and it was a pretty smooth. I think we should start a little earlier, and we'd definitely get it in before that March 31st next year.
Otros resultados: sin desacuerdos con la dirección, no se identificaron debilidades materiales en el control interno sobre los informes financieros o el cumplimiento. Se identificaron 2 deficiencias significativas en el control interno sobre la presentación de informes financieros o el cumplimiento. El primero fue el 2023-002 y fue por el programa de mejoramiento del aeropuerto, unos reportes que no se entregaron a tiempo, pero para cuando se terminó la auditoría ya todo se había reportado y todos los gastos y todo se había hecho y quedó ya sin fondos. El segundo fue el 2023-001 en los informes financieros. Los estados financieros deben de estar entregados en marzo de 2023. Este año el Departamento de Finanzas los entregó un poco tarde, pero aún así no estuvieron tan tardes como anteriormente. Trabajaremos para el próximo año para poderlo terminar a tiempo. Y en ese quiso aprovechar para darle gracias al Departamento de Finanzas por el apoyo y que todos entregaron todo a tiempo y sin complicaciones.
And that's our presentation. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments?
I don't. Just thank you for the report. Appreciate that.
Okay. No, I just want to thank you also as a firm in going through our financials, and that's a snapshot also for the community, for them to look at, as to where we stand on a scheme of things, But of course, there is more to that also. But thank you, and thank you to finance and everybody that was involved, and all the departments that contributed to make sure that the audit went through, and they provided the documentation needed and everything else. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we move to the public comments and public appearances, not to exceed 3 minutes. This is a time for the public to address the City Council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of this City Council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence. For the record, while members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. Group comments may be requested to limit to their group to comments to 15 minutes. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. If the item you wish to comment on is on the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when we get to the item on the agenda. Please direct your comments and questions to the city council.
The city clerk received a letter via email from Oscar Palero, and I'd like to read. Dear City Council of Calexico, my name is Oscar Palero, and I am a certified operator working for the city of Calexico, as well as a proud member of SEIU Local 221. I first want to congratulate the new council on their appointments, and I am looking forward to working with you all going forward. However, I am writing to express my deep concern and frustration regarding the ongoing issue of our expired contract, which has now been unresolved for almost a full year. Despite our numerous attempts to engage in dialogue and negotiate in good faith, the city manager and HR director have consistently refused to respond to our phone calls, emails, and even in-person requests to discuss this critical matter. They have not responded to an email in almost 2 months. This lack of communication and engagement is not only disheartening, but also unacceptable for the dedicated workers who strive to serve our community every day. We believe it is crucial to address these issues promptly and would like to request an opportunity to meet with each council member individually to discuss the contract negotiations. Our SEIU representative will be reaching out tomorrow to arrange these meetings for next week. We hope to find a resolution that acknowledges and respects the hard work and dedication of the certified operators for the betterment of all in Calexico. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Sincerely, Oscar Palero, certified operator, City of Calexico, SEIU Local 221 member. She also received the same letter from the following persons: Jesus Navarro, Jesus Marquez, Pedro Tarzotti, Brenda Garcia, and Aaron Garcia.
Do we have any public?
The first speaker,
Yes.
Hector Lopez.
Mr. Lopez? Whatever you choose. Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear
Good
me?
evening.
My name's Hector Lopez. I'm representing I'm from the city of Calexico. I represent the Carpenters Union. I just wanted to offer our services for the city. We have a program, it's a CUP program. It's a Carpenters Union participating program. We actually volunteer our work for any cities to help out the community. And the reason I'm here, because I see the parks, all the baseball parks, and we just finished the season and they're all messed up and they're in desperate need of attention. And what the union, my president actually allowed me to come out here and speak to you guys about this and see if I could get your guys' help as far as getting materials, and we'll do the labor for you guys. We offer our services. I mean, we could start with small projects, doing baseball fields, small, whatever you have. If you guys put up material, we'll actually do the labor for you guys. It's all professional work. We have over 300 carpenters in Imperial Valley who can help out, and just we're here to give back to the community. I mean, I don't know if I left my number in that card. You guys could contact me there, and I could arrange a meeting with my president. We'll have representatives from San Diego come out here, and we could get to work on this matter. All the fields, I mean, whatever you guys have, parks, we're here to help you guys out.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. So we do have your contact, or we
It's
can
in the
reach
card. I left my number there. You guys could contact me as far as whatever you guys need. Like I said, we could help out. It's a lot of us that our union helps, gives us, money for whatever we need, and then there's a lot of us that put in our. We've done stuff for City of Raleigh. We've done stuff for Imperial. I mean, I wish I could start doing something for Calexico too.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much appreciated.
Yeah.
Where is Pat? Make sure that we get Pat also on that. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Lopez. Next comment?
Next speaker, Jesus Solano.
126 Rosemont, Calexico. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, staff, and council members, and welcome aboard, Mr. Legaspi and Mrs. Thailenda. And we're here to work together. Okay, let's move forward. I normally do not speak regarding a issue when the person is not in front of me, but I don't have time to wait. I brought it up to your concern on the previous meetings on censoring the previous former mayor, Gloria Romo. I don't want to bore you into details. We know what she did and what she didn't do, okay? You guys are the policy makers. You guys decide how you're going to handle it, okay? And the reason I bring it up is because Al Central set the example for us. They did it to their councilman, Imperial Irrigation District did it to one of their directors. Why not here, Calexico? Okay, so that's one of my point there. Okay, so it's up to you guys how you're going to censor her. The other topic is another topic that I brought up regarding the item 18 from previous meeting. This is part of it, half, but the rest is, I mentioned on the previous meeting, the council at board level receives $156,000 a year, $36,000 for stipend between all five, and $120,000 for health insurance. Right now, I believe it's time for this council to step up to the plate, okay? So you need to do a sacrifice. This administration and the previous council and part of the council present right now was demanding a liability insurance for participating in the parks. Like this gentleman that just spoke a while ago, the parks are depleted. We need to bring them up to standards. I told you last time that we have a high volume of volunteers. It's a commodity, it's free. We just need to remove those barriers. And that is the purpose that I'm requesting as an initiative, but it's up to you as policymakers to convert it into a resolution to where you are going to repurpose those $156,000 to cover the liability insurance. How you're going to handle it, I would appreciate if you would get together with some of the community members with Parks and Recreation Commission, and we can work that out. If it has to be with administration, if it has to be with human resources, so be it. And I would appreciate it with one of the council members would participate. That way, that person representing the council would bring the information directly to you, not to administration, okay, directly to you. We want to hold the council accountable on that. You are the executives up here as policymakers. You give an executive direction. When your management does not follow, then it's up to you how you're going to handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Solano.
Next speaker, Terry Nava.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Garcia. Congratulations. And welcome to Mr. Legaspi and Ms. Thailenda. Congratulations on your appointments. Terry Nava, Calexico Housing Authority Executive Director. I come before you because I have a major concern, lack of communication. Unfortunately, back in March, we sent a letter to the previous Mayor Romo and to Ms. Colio, requesting to set up a meeting with our HUD director that came down from Los Angeles as they wanted to discuss city issues with the Housing Authority. We never heard back from either person. It really upsets me to say this, but we're supposed to be sister agencies, as I was called in the past. We work together providing services to our residents in Calexico. So I come before you asking that we please open up lines of communication. Mayor Garcia, I sent you an email a couple of weeks ago and I haven't heard back from you. To those of you council members that are seated, aside from the new council members, a letter was sent to you on behalf of the agency regarding an issue with the Housing Authority, and we have yet to hear from anyone. So I just come before you as a new council, our new mayor seated, that we open lines of communication, that we come, that we discuss things together. There's no need to disregard one another. We're here to provide, like, as I mentioned, a service to our community as a whole. So I would love to hear from each and every one of you, and in response to the letters that were submitted to the council previously, I will provide letters, copies of the letters to Ms. Thailenda and Mr. Legaspi, so that you're brought up to speed on the issue with the Housing Authority. And again, I was really embarrassed to tell the director of HUD, which is our federal agency that provides funding to the Housing Authority, that I did not get a response back from either the mayor or the city manager. And I'm not here to put anybody on check, or that's not my job. My job is here to request an open line of communication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Javier Gonzalez.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, members of the public, sorry. First and foremost, let me congratulate the new council members, Mrs. Thailenda, Mr. Legaspi. I know that you guys will do a great work. On behalf of the IID, we want to congratulate you, and we want to let you know that we're ready to work together. Yesterday, I was reappointed to the Calexico IID 2 and 2. Those are committees that we proposed 3 years ago for the same purpose of working together with the cities of the entire Imperial Valley. So we're ready for a meeting. There's a lot of things to discuss. Myself and the other IID director that represents Calexico, Division 5 Director Eugenio, we're ready to sit down with the two members of the council members. We have a lot of issues to discuss, including with the retention basins. 3 years ago, the IID said they were going to pay for all the materials. Water still coming in when the fields are flooded. IID completed 90% of the LED. We need 10% more. And other than that, new lighting that has been installed is not working. We want to know how we can help the city, because that's the responsibility of the city. One of the most important things for me is the canal fencing and safety. Under a contract, the city is responsible for maintenance. On my request, the IID has been doing it, because I find a hole and I want it covered tomorrow, and they take a week or two, but the city has been taking months, and the summer is coming up, and kids, I don't know how long the pool program is going to be open, but during the next meeting, the IID will be awarding money for summer pool programs. We have the tree grant. Just yesterday, it was announced that the public space green grant is available. It's open to the cities. The deadline is July 1st. There's no reason why the city can't apply. We can start filling up our parks with trees. IID also has a utility box beautification program. We started that 3 years ago. It's different than the ones in the city. The city, I noticed that the utility boxes were the traffic signals on the corners. IID has a lot of utility boxes. It's open to the public who wants to paint. And I just want to introduce our new ECAC member appointed to the IID. ECA member is Patricia Ureña. You can work with her. And our other ECA member is here, Mary Salazar. You can contact them. Any of these programs are open to the public to benefit Calexico. And I just want to let you know that we're ready to work with the city. Thank you.
Next speaker, Isaac Francisco Manjarres.
Buenas tardes, ciudad de Calexico. Quiero pedirle al concilio si me pueden ayudar para hacer un evento aquí mismo en Calexico para un amigo que es ciudadano de aquí de Calexico. Ya han pasado muchos años de que no le han podido dar un reconocimiento. Me gustaría al mayor Camilo García, señor Legaspi, Javier Romero, si me pueden ayudar. Quiero hacer un evento pequeño. La mayoría de ustedes lo conocen. Es el señor Roberto Peña. Queremos ver si por medio de la ciudad nos permite hacerle este evento y develarle una placa. Si me lo permiten ustedes, yo voy a conseguir unos patrocinadores que me ayuden para hacer este evento. Díganme ustedes si me ayudan, están conmigo y que dice el continuo. Muchas gracias por permitirme hablar y espero tu respuesta y aquí estamos. Gracias.
Gracias, señor Mujeres.
Next speaker, Joseph Guillén.
Hello, Council. Mayor Camilo, how are you doing? Good afternoon. I just want to give you guys props. Whenever there's props to be given, it needs to be given. I was going around 2nd Street. 2nd Street was already getting kind of cleared from the campments and stuff like that. But this week, there was a big push for 3rd Street. And for me, the biggest thing for that shows to me is that there is something we can do about it. Remember how many times Moreno, Camilo, you guys were here, that we were told we can't do anything about it. It's out of our control, right? What happened? We got it done. Where there's a will, there's a way. We can get it done. And I'm going to give you guys props because you guys were adamant about it, and thank you. Thank you very much. That could have gone really bad. There's another thing I wanted to talk about. This has nothing to do with governmental. This is, something that I'm, as a dreamer, I like to shoot for the stars. I've already mentioned it a couple times to a couple people. But, in my lifetime, I want to see Calexico be the center for a festival or something. We live so close to the border that we can literally touch it. I mean, we have Mexican culture that can come across the border. We always talk about how we have the culture in us, right? The Mexican culture. Well, let's bring it out. Let's bring the food. Let's bring out the music. Let's bring out the vibes, right? Get some kind of festival together, and that way every year there's always an event, right? Every year there's an annual competition of mariachi, right? It likens a little bit to the rodeo, right? Cattle call rodeo. Why did they have so much revenue come up? It's because it's tourism, right? It's one of the legs of the rodeo. Eventually it gets to wherever they're going to go at the end, right? For me, I want to see this envisioned. I don't know if anybody has already tried this. If you have, let me know. Let's get in contact. I really want to push something like this. I think it would be really cool for the community to have every year to look forward to have some kind of festival that brings this culture right here to America. I mean, how great would it be to have, people like presidents or something like that to come down and come to our festival, I envision that one day. I think we can do it. We can have our mindset to it. We can get something done. And for me, anything you guys need, videos or, I'm here. I'm young, 32 years old. I'm ready to work. I have a business downtown, 404 East 2nd Street, that is prospering. During the pandemic, I mean, I didn't have anything that happened to me, so thank God that I have an ability to then work in government, right, and serve my taxpayers or my constituents. Because for me, I like to see where my money is being spent, because I pay a lot in taxes, so and I'm sure everybody here fares the same way. So just a little bit of things, a little bit of ideas to throw out there, see if anybody's interested in. And if you have, como te digo, let me know. I would love to get a hold of that and see what's up. Thank you.
And thank you for the business shout out. So I guess everybody's invited. If you want to make public comment, do a business shout out, you're more than welcome. I think that's one way that we can start. So next one.
No more general comments.
No public comments? Thank you. City manager's report.
I will not make any report.
Thank you.
Too long.
Okay. Commissioner's report. Do I have, I think I saw Pat right there.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council, city manager and residents of Calexico. Patricia Orena, Community Services Chair. I'm going to just do a little bit of updates on some of the things that we've been doing as far as the commission. We are currently still doing assessments of all the parks. I get phone calls about some of the lights that are out at certain parks, and we're trying to figure out, and we'll meet with Lily to find out what lights are actually out at Gutierrez and how many. as well as over at Rise in Retention, over by the playground. There's lights that are out there for children that are unable to play. The east side lights are working, but the west side lights are not working. So just want to bring it up to your attention. We're also getting ready, the commission is getting ready to put up our agenda for July 10th, so we can provide some action items to the council regarding some of the park projects. The other one is we're hoping that the council can review the system of how you remove commissioners when a council member is no longer seated at the diocese. We do have a working committee, so there are some of our commissioners that want to stay on, and I believe they should stay on until you choose a new commissioner, or if you wish to keep that commissioner on, because they get a letter that said all of a sudden they're not doing commission work for us anymore, and it's kind of an insult when they're out there doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. So maybe we can talk about maybe changing that policy. The other one is that I had the opportunity to go out to Legion Field to see the 3-crown Little League champions. They won every division. I think it's the first time ever that Calexico has won 3 divisions in a row. So we have the 3-crown divisions in our own little city. While I was there, and I've been there before, that's one of the assessments we're doing. Just to let you know, the benches are falling apart. I think I almost threw Legaspi off one side because I sat on one end and there was no bolts on that bench. So it was a teeter-totter, exactly. But you held on really good. So, I mean, I'm glad I heard Mr. Lopez from the Carpenters Union. Definitely would like to meet with that union to find out how we can work together to maybe perhaps help with the field assessment. With that, we also had a meeting yesterday. The ad hoc committee had a meeting for the facility status, and that included myself and Commissioner Inigas. And we met with residents regarding item 17, which I can make a statement now, or if you'd like, I can make that at the item 17 when 17 comes up.
That's next.
Yes. Okay. So I'll come back up for that one. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else from commissions? So we're going to move to city council comments and reports of meetings attended.
Yeah, I'd like to start if I may. Thank you, Mayor. On May 24, we had a structure fire in Calexico, and 4 homes were destroyed. 4 families, 18 people total behind McDonald's, right in the alley. And I'd like to thank the city staff, the fire department. We also had various fire departments throughout Imperial County assisting us. In particular, we have the Imperial County Department of Social Services that also provided immediate relief to the families. Our manager, city manager, was able to coordinate all that also with Red Cross. I'd like to thank city manager and her staff. I myself and Mayor Garcia was there. And I'd like to thank everybody for assisting us in that disaster. My question is this for Ms. Colio. I know Red Cross gave out, I believe, some gift certificates or gift awards for the families. There is through the California Fire Foundation, where their eligible families are able to receive an additional $250 for survivors. We can certainly look into that.
Actually, the Red Cross providing to each one of the families, depending on the size, and a stipend, and it's to immediately alleviate the issue, the basic needs. They can pay for a hotel or they can buy food. Then in our city, we have a grant that allows us to relocate temporarily families in a hotel. And so we did it for 9 days. And those families were provided with meals, clothes, with everybody's assistance, from the fire department, the Rotary Club, Mr. Wong, Jack in the Box. There's so many people that help the Calexico Unified District through the Resource Center. They provided with clothes and everything, the minimum items that they need. And not only that, we received last week a donation of $6,000 to be able to provide the first deposit and the first month of rent to the 3 families that were eligible for this program, low-income families, out of the four houses that were burned down. So it's an effort of everybody, from everybody. The families that were never on the streets, they were put in a hotel temporarily basis.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening, staff and members of the public. This is my first council meeting. I'm very excited to serve. I want to congratulate the Calexico Little League for their amazing accomplishment of winning the Valley-wide championship on different age divisions. And I'd also like to congratulate the Calexico Unified School District on obtaining their WASC accreditation for the Robert F. Morales Adult Education School. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Legaspi.
My first one. Issues, so I'll try to speak loud. I'd like to, some of us council members attended the Camarena Memorial Library, the unveiling of the comic collection donated by Mr. Luis Torres. And was a memory of his sister, Yolanda Torres, who had passed away. And lots of students brought their artistic talents to this event, which is great to have seen. Also, Pat Ureña invited me to the Juvenile Justice Commission meeting at the probation department. She's a chairperson. It's a meeting of multi-agencies who collaborate together regarding to multiple topics such as the homeless and working with the youth. And thank you, Pat, for inviting me. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mr. Legaspi. I want to start first of all with almost did on everything that you guys said. My colleagues, we all attended, the community celebration that the Little League had, over, I think it was Sunday. So it was great to see families coming together, celebrating something that has never been done. And I think they're still verifying whether that is, a fact or not. But regardless, that the accomplishment is huge. So at a later future date, we're gonna have them here because it's something that should be celebrated and should be and will be celebrated. Also, on May 22nd, I went to my first ICTC meeting, Imperial County Transportation Commission, as your representative, and the vibe and the welcome from the ICTC members was great. They have always been with Calexico. They always have cared for Calexico, and as proof of that, most of the agenda that they had on that day, a lot of the agenda items were on Calexico or pertaining to Calexico. One was the Calexico Export of Entry Bridge Widening Project, which was completed, and also something that you can see, and it's going to benefit the crossing and the experience of transportation, whether it's pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Then also, this is not Calexico, but this is entire Imperial County. Unfortunately, the IB transit free fares or rides is coming to an end this month, so they will go back to charging again. So, but until the end of the month, they will be still free. You can ride free. Also, something that was really happy for me to see. In fact, I make the motion to approve the project construction management RFP that was issued on March 22nd, 2024 was actually, there were some bids that were received, and the work for construction management services was approved that day for the Calexico Intermodal Transportation Center that will be breaking ground in about 2 months. So that's great, and that to also share with you, this is not a project that just came to fruition in the last 2 years. This has been a project that has been ongoing since 2014. Many people have contributed to that. Many administrations have contributed to that, from the local leadership to ICTC. So just to make sure that we clear the record, this is not something that came about in the last couple of years. since 2014. So also, the Calexico micro transit service on demand, it's actually having a great demand, and they're looking for ways to obtain more funding so they can continue to have it available and even expand it. So that's something that ICTC is going to be working on through the support of the staff and the membership of this committee. Then also, ICTC, through ICTC, there was a new bus stop along Cole Road, west of Highway 111, in our city installed. So if you go by Denny's, there's a new bus stop that was installed. So for actually people to be in the shade. And that's something that, again, they have been working on and they have been doing for us. So they have not forgotten us. They have always been looking out for Calexico. And again, I just want to thank them and appreciate everything that they've done for us. And we'll continue to be at the table. Then also, I want to share with you that I know the last couple of days there has been information coming out from the federal government regarding an executive order that was signed yesterday by President Biden, changing immigration policy. I know there has been questions whether I was invited to the White House or not. I was not invited. So, but actually, they actually had a couple of mayors from Texas attend to make sure that this information goes out. But my take on this is that this is a federal issue. I know that affects our city, but this is something way beyond what we can attend. So we'll continue to be engaged. We continue to be monitoring this situation and make sure that we communicate and open the lines of communication between the feds and even our neighbors from the south, Mexicali, as that might be one of the things that we need to do, make sure that we communicate and make sure that we collaborate to tend to this issue. And to end, a couple of days ago, I had a chance to go and visit one of our elementary schools at the invitation of our one of the classes, kindergarten classes, because they had actually reached out to me. They were studying local government, and they drew a picture of me. So I was kind of like, I showed up, and I was kind of like their uncle that they hadn't met before. So it was lots of fun, but to me, that was something that is meaningful, something that we have to engage our youth, our children, and that it was a pleasure to be there. So kudos to those school and the teacher that make that happen. With that, that's my report.
So Mayor, can I just one real quick?
Sure.
Thank you. So to piggyback on Mayor Garcia's point, is Governor Newsom has said a couple of weeks ago there's a budget shortfall in the state of California. So we need to prepare for that. This is why it's so important that all the funds and resources we have here for all the projects are used immediately before they're taken away. So we're in danger to that. Okay. The other thing also, to piggyback on what Mr. Solano and Mayor Garcia was saying, in terms of we have award-winning teams, okay, but they also need our support in taking care of all the facilities. I've had a family call me that they couldn't even have soap and towels at those restrooms. So it's minor things that we can all agree that we need to for those teams, right? The other thing also, Mayor Garcia said about the Imperial County Transportation Committee, which he serves there. We're about, like you said, we're about to open. Well, actually, we're about to start construction on the transportation hub. It's important that all those businesses around those empty lots that look like a war zone will also be cleaned up, right? So when that transportation hub is there, so we can welcome people to our city, and starting with that local area. So moving forward, I know we've been talking here for the last couple of months. We're going to take care of it. I have hope that this new city council will take us to the next level. Thank you for everybody supporting us, but the change is coming, so be patient. Thank you.
Thank you. And something that I forgot that I know is going to make you really happy, I was saving it for the end, but I'm going to share it with you. Highway 98 is scheduled to be completed at the end of this month. So again, it's coming to an end, it's coming to completion. So that's the news that I got also in this ICTC meeting. So thank you for your patience. I know that fixing and getting our roadways in order, takes time, but thank you for your patience. So that's also the part of the report that they gave me, so sorry about that, but I know you were waiting for that too. So with that also, we'll move to consent agenda. But you have a motion
Yes,
for approval?
so move. Make a motion to approve.
Did I get a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
Yes.
Council Member Gloria Romo, absent. Council Member Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Council Member Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Okay. And actually, we already pulled items from the consent agenda, so now we're going to go to the discussion of potential action items. And as you recall, we moved item 17 to the beginning. Thank you for waiting patiently. So we're going to go with the Heber Park Expansion Project, Public Works Manager.
Yes. This is an item that you requested, Mayor, in a previous meeting to bring some options of the
Correct.
process.
So, and thank
the
you. And
layout.
the options are option number 1, which is the building only, option number 2, park only, and C, continue looking for additional funding.
Yes, and I think I shared with you that Ms. Falomir submitted a additional request for funding to the Congressman's office, and the project has been selected among 15, but it's not the final decision, but at least it's moving forward for potential additional $5 million. But she's going to present now the options. Just keep that in mind that we may be able to secure additional $5 million, but we're not for sure yet. It is not for sure yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a little brief update. Back in fiscal year 1920, the city was granted $8.5 million from the State Department of Parks and Recreation to build a gymnasium over at Heber Park. As well as a gymnasium, it was also some amenities around the park. We went through the RFP process and we selected architect, which is JKA, and they went quickly to work. And they provided the plans in the 60, 90, and 100 phase. The first time they provided the plans, the cost came in at $9.6 million. So we went back again and asked them to do it in phases, which would be just focus first on the multi-purpose gym and then the other items around. So they went back, they did some redesigns, and then the final engineer's cost that came in was $10 million. So since then, we have been working and finding ways of requesting additional funds. We applied a grant through the California Clean grant, which unfortunately we were not awarded. As Ms. Colio mentioned, in May, we submitted a $5 million appropriation to Congressman Reese, and it was selected, and now it's going through the committees for review. So now we come before you and ask City Council to give us direction as to what would you like us to do. Ms. Colio and myself met with JKA and told him, this is how much money we have for now, what can we do? So on your backup agenda item, they gave us 2 options. Option number 1 is to do the gymnasium only, no amenities around it, just the gymnasium, which comes up to estimated cost about $7 million. Option number 2 is just not to do a gym at all, but just do parks, basketball courts outside, maybe a soccer field, which they estimate about 6.9. And option number 3 would be if you want us to still continue reaching out to submit grant opportunities for this park. Just a reminder that the deadline for the grant is June 30th, 2028. So we are in a little time crunch.
Question. Go ahead. Whichever we select, we are still going to be able to pay $5 million if it goes through. Whatever options we select, we can still obtain the $5 million if it goes through.
Well, the $5 million was for the whole park, including the gymnasium. If an item is if an option is selected tonight, we still have to go back to the state to see if it's allowable for us to reduce the original scope of work. So it is a major decision that City Council would need to do. Right now, would give us direction as to where do we go towards, and then go to the state and ask for a revision to the scope of work, and then see if it's allowable or not.
One thing that I would like to mention is the project was selected the way that it is right now, designed. Just for clarification, how much it was spent for the design so far?
$740,000. So
Yes, no change orders, $740,000 has been spent in designs. So out of the $8.5 million, you have less money available. Let's say $7.5 million, right? Two things can happen over here. We either wait for the $5 million if we're gonna get it, but what we can do at the same time, if you desire to do it that way, if you select one option today, it has to go first to the state to see if they're gonna approve us that change, that option that you select today. In that time that it's gonna take for them to approve us, it may happen very quick or it may take longer. That's the time that we're still gonna be waiting for the appropriations at the federal level to see if the project is gonna be approved. If the project gets approved, you can go back and maintain that project the way that it was. If it's not approved, then we'll continue with the process of modifying the project at the state level because their funding is coming from the state. I just want to make sure that we take those timelines into consideration. The other portion that I want to mention as well is the issue about long-term sustainability. Once we complete the project with funding from the state, the caveat in the contract is that we as a city are committing to maintain that facility for the next 30 years. If I'm not mistaken, it's 30 years, right? What that means is we need to have additional 2 staff members in maintaining the facility, water, electricity, and everything that is necessary for the facility. In the report that you have present with you, there is some costs for each one of the options. But that cost will go higher as time passes. I just want to be upfront with you that we have to start thinking about whatever your decision is, how do we going to maintain those facilities when we're still having struggles with Ms. Gerardo here that sometimes she doesn't have enough staff to complete the projects or the events that she has currently. And having an additional building is going to be more work for her and more struggles that she has to face to maintain this additional facility.
Ms. Colio, if I may add, Mr. Mayor, real quick, I don't know if I should be asking both of you or one of them, but what is your recommendation as a point of reference to what I got at my comments? What is your recommendation?
If I had to make a recommendation, I will go for you to make a selection today and to give us direction of where to go, if you're going to select one or the other or no select anything and just continue trying to get the additional $5 million. But if you decide today to make a selection, at your direction, we'll go to the state, request the change, continue waiting to see if we're going to get the $5 million, and come back with you to explain how are we going to get the additional funding to maintain this facility, not this coming fiscal year, but the following year.
Okay, so which one do you recommend? I'm asking for a recommend. We have 3 options here. Which one do you recommend? Ms. Palomir, which one do you recommend? Well, okay, so
what I can say is I was part of preparing the application with Sandra Towler, the former Community Services Director. And we did a lot of public outreach, and one of the items that they kept asking was a gymnasium. So I can just let you know that was the #1 item that was
Ms. Colio, would she be leading the project here, or would she be part of this project?
She's
right?
the leader
Public
for
Works, right?
Are
you going to lead this project?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say she does lead this project. So it's important to know is that we have Pedro Ureña and the commission. What I would think is like tomorrow, immediately start doing a joint meeting with the commission and formulate a strategy, because now it has changed. Do a new strategy, a plan of action, bring it back. And also, in terms of what Ms. Collier was saying, we can work with the school district and like San Diego State University. We can work with the school district as far as the facility. So there's plenty of volunteers, plenty of resources available, but I think a plan of action will do that. Obviously, if you recommend option number one, I think Pat Ureña did a good job of recommending option number one. I agree with that, right? Why make it a big deal? Because we're in a budget crunch here. If the government pulls those funds, they're going to take it back. We're not going to do nothing. So tomorrow we should be starting on this program. Join with you with the input Pat Ureña as a chair on the next agenda and bring it over for us. That's a project right there. Thank you.
From the council?
Yeah, I want to commend staff, Public Works Manager Lily, for carrying this project for so long. It's a heavy project, and thank you for putting all these options together with so much detail. And I do want to, with that, say, anyone else?
Well, before, we need to go to public comment also.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the public comments.
Okay. Have any
Public comments? Patricia Ureña.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, city manager, and staff and residents. We did have an ad hoc committee yesterday at the community center, and I will let you know that the agenda provides information on the Heber Park expansion with 3 options to consider. The ad hoc committee, composed of Commissioner Iniguez and myself, reviewed the item with approximately 50 in attendance, including those on Zoom, and with another 100 residents who provided input as to what option they felt was in the best interest of the community. After reviewing the agenda item, a vote was taken, and option 1 was overwhelming, voted as the best option. No hands were presented for option 2 or 3. We hope that you consider community comments when you make your decision today to move forward with option 1 to build the building only. Attached are some of the comments, and I think you all received it. The citizens of Calexico look forward to working with the city council and the city management to help with this item. I will also like to say that hearing that that we are in the phase with Congressman Reese to hopefully get $5 million, I think it's an opportunity for us as a community, as a commission, and as a city to send a letter of support and telling them why we need to finish this project. One of the things that we have to remember that when this project came before us, we were hit with COVID. There was nothing we could do during that time. So now we have an opportunity to start moving forward, and I think that if we explain that to the state, they will grant us this grant. But you're right, the governor is looking to take money from wherever he can, so I think that the sooner we get that message out to the state of California that this gymnasium is so much needed in this community. So we did ask 3 questions to the residents, providing the cost and also the future maintenance that City Manager Colio just mentioned, that there is a longevity on cost, which is the overhead. And here are some of the comments. After reviewing the cost for each option, the building only that was estimated, the estimates that were provided by the Public Works Manager were provided. When we asked for a vote, all hands went up for option 1. No hands went up for option 2, but for option 3, we still need to continue to look for other kinds of funds, whether it be through Measure H or other opportunities as the one you just mentioned. We did ask, what do you feel are the benefits for indoor gym versus, an outside facility? The residents' responses were very clear. Due to our climate, it's difficult to be outdoors to play basketball. During the summer, basketball courts are empty, and outdoor facility would be beneficial. Health issues with dust. We have the highest asthma in the valley because our sports are outdoors, and because of the air pollution. Programs would increase participation, and we would not need to reduce our programs due to the lack of an indoor facility. As it is right now, the staff uses a school gym, and it's not always available, and when you do a program, it's hard to have to call back everybody because that gymnasium is not available. They do realize that there needs to be an increase of staff, but you did say, Councilmember Moreno, we could work with San Diego State, we could work with the school, we could work with IVRP and have the staff, do the training for that overhead. Questions were also brought up regarding taxes, the hospital tax, Measure H, and lithium. What about a bond that's restricted only to complete recreation facilities and upgrading and completing parks? The gym could provide training programs for future staff training, work with agencies that can pay for staff, but are trained by our city staff. And again, there's a scroll of other benefits. One is sky's the limit regarding this new facility. And if you have this packet, and you can read all of these other benefits, but I will also tell you that it ends like this: build it and they will come. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Next speaker, Jesus Solano.
Jesus Solano, 426 Rosemont, Calexico. I am also in favor of option 1, and the reason is that we can use it year-round, and we can do a lot of activities in there. And pertaining on the maintenance, have I mentioned a while ago, we need to open the volunteer system. I just gave you an initiative, and I hope you convert it into a resolution to where we can open it up, not just for the maintenance inside the building, but outside, all the cleaning around the area, and additional parks too. And the other thing that we did talk, that Pat just mentioned, is a restricted bond. Okay? If it comes to a point to where we need funding to complete it, that would be the next route to go. But we need to be sure that we can inform the community exactly that there's going to be check and balance transparency, and there's going to be an oversight committee, okay, where we're going to know exactly where every penny's going to go that we collect. And we would put that out to the public. If we do our work together, if we work together as a community, and we work together as a council, we can accomplish many things. Okay, thank you.
Next speaker, Cecilia Herrera.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak. I'm here to speak on about option 1. My concern, or what I would like to express, is the importance about this. It's not something like, oh, it would be nice to have. It's something we should have had a long time ago. And I don't think for a second that anyone's here is against the idea of it. You know, I know they're tough decisions, but to be frank, that's why you're here. You're elected to make these tough decisions. This is one of them. We need this. You need to invest in the youth to ensure a good future here. This town shouldn't just be a town that we live in. It should be a town we're proud of. It's time to stop with losing our athletes, stop losing them to other towns, stop losing them to crime, to mental health, all the issues we have. If we invest in the youth, if we do this, we won't have so many problems. Our downtown won't be on fire so much. Our police won't be so busy after, you know, all the crime that happens. But if we don't make these choices, then we have no one else to blame but ourselves. This is not asking much. We need a gym. We need to bring these things to Calexico. So I ask you, please, do this. Well, you guys can figure it out. The money will come. You have hard workers here. Everybody's willing. It's not always often when the community comes together for something. This is one of those things. So I ask you, I plead with you, please. It's health issues. It's to give youth something to be proud of, to bring the parents, grandparents out. It's not just for the youth. I mean, adults will be using this too. So it's an overall win-win. Kill those 5 birds with one stone and make this gym happen. So I ask you, please, to really consider this and make it, you know, do your best. Don't hesitate or fear what ifs. Just do it, and then we'll figure it out as we go. So I ask you, please, to really consider today. Don't table this. Don't wait too long. Option 1, please. Thank you.
Next speaker, Brenda Martinez. Next speaker, Mario Ceja.
Good evening, council people. My name is Mario Ceja. I'm a local resident. I just wanted to give my support in favor of option one, the gymnasium. I think it would be good for the city of Calexico. Over the last year, I saw firsthand how having a community basketball league in Calexico really helped the kids. I have a 13-year-old son, and he participated in the recreation department basketball league. And unfortunately, they had to practice on Saturday. They didn't play on Sunday because during the week they couldn't use the gym. But even then, despite it, having to give up weekends, everybody showed up for the games. I mean, it was incredible. The participation of the kids, the parents, grandparents. I think it's something that's needed. I think we have a great person in Pat Ureña leading the movement. You can't find anybody better than her. And so I just wanted to voice my support in favor of option one. I think you can't go wrong with it. Thank you.
Dr. Ceja?
Yes, sir.
I'm here. You're a doctor, a medical doctor. You see many patients. How important is exercising outdoors for health?
For me, as a family physician, and I always tell people, if you want to live a long, healthy life, you gotta exercise.
There you go.
Because I can give you 20 pills, and they make you live 10 years longer, but you're gonna be taking 20 pills and still be unhealthy. You know, my dad, who just turned 90, I bought him a gym 20 years ago, an inside small gym. He used it, and he's still walking around. He's still mentally sharp. You know, so. Obviously, indoor, outside, any kind of exercise is going to help you to keep the doctors away. So I guess my answer is very important, more than any medication is. Yeah.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
And with that, let's all get up and do some exercise.
Yeah, let's go. Clap our hands.
We've been sitting down for a while.
Next speaker, Luz Ceja.
Good evening, council members
Good evening.
and city. My name is Luz Ceja, as the previous people ahead of me just spoke, and the reason I'm here is also for option one, for the building only. I think our city is in dire need of a gym. I see that other cities, and I think why can't we have one? You know, our community needs it, our youth needs it. There's a big need for it, and one of the big reasons is also because of our climate, our excruciating summers here. The kids are not going to be playing in 120-something degree weather in those basketball courts. We do have some, but they're outdoor, and we cannot use them year-round, so having this gym would really help doing activities of all sorts in that gym. It could work as a multi-sport gym, also as a multi-event venue. I believe maybe it could bring more revenue to the city. It will definitely keep our kids, our youth busy and off the streets. And it would help our seniors. We were talking about exercise because I think it would help all of our city age groups and do different activities and help also our seniors to stay active year-round, so we could all be healthier as a community and live healthier lives. So thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Carmen Estrada.
Buenas tardes. Mi recomendación es que sí se haga el gimnasio, porque nosotros tuvimos una liga de básquetbol. Fue mi primer deporte que hicimos cuando estábamos en el departamento de policía, y fue la liga más grande del Valle Imperial y la liga del estado que nos vinieron a reconocer de PAL. Acuérdese, Camilo, que usted viajaba con nosotros, íbamos y veníamos a Mexicali cuando traíamos a sus hijos. Usted señor Armendáriz, y ojalá se logre este proyecto y sea sueño realidad y no un sueño fracasado. Yo les recomiendo que sí se haga ese gimnasio, que mucho lo ocupamos. Gracias.
Next speaker, Alexis Rangel.
Good evening, council members. I just want to give my support to option 1, and just more of an interpersonal. 2 of my kids go to many of the activities in the recreation department, so I feel like this is the best option because we do have parks already, some that aren't able to be maintained, so just having a park wouldn't make a difference, but the gymnasium is important. My son will play basketball in the heat or not. My daughter and my son will play basketball in the heat or not. But we do need a place where children can play volleyball. We were trying to work with my daughter on her volleyball skills, and there was nowhere except for the Testada gym. And just to mention, the Testada gym is very, in a lot of sports, even in the high school, are struggling to find hours for themselves. So for instance, I can tell you the cheerleaders, they use it and they have to be out by a certain time. The basketball team and the volleyball team, I believe, also struggled for the scheduling. So a gym would really help with that. The only thing that I wouldn't be in agreement with is a tax to maintain it. I will pay more fees when it comes to the classes, but a tax I just don't feel comfortable with because in the history of taxes that are recommended by any department here, it seems like we struggle to make sure that those funds are used specifically for that program. So that's the only thing that I would say. But option 1, I definitely want to give my support to. Thank you.
Next speaker, Jesus Iñiguez.
Hello, Council. My name is Jesus Iñiguez. They call me Chewy.
Hello.
And I've been doing sports for more than 33 years. Option 1 would be the best opportunity. I understand maintenance and all that kind of stuff, but what we saw yesterday, me and Pat, where the community got together and they spoke out their voice. The community wants something different in this town that we never had. Everything's possible. When I say everything's possible, when I built those fields and that basin, I had no resources to do it anywhere else because I didn't have a piece of land. So I put 70,000 into a field like that. So with the community now getting together, we made it possible for us to achieve a lot of goals. You know, I'm saying about the recall, we had so many people come into the community because the community wants to change, and we need that change. That's why I said we never had a gym. A gym is we call it for parks and recs, multi-purpose, different quinceañeras, everything. We always have to go to the outside. They had to go to Mexicali and all that kind of stuff. But we do need some kind of resource. We can benefit by renting the hall, renting certain areas. You know, some way or another, we'll be able to maintain it. We have a lot of volunteers in this town. I've been doing volunteer work for my entire life. I don't expect to get paid. My pay is when a kid tells me, Coach, you know, I got one hint sitting right there in the council. I was her coach, and then there's a whole bunch of here that I used to be their coach, and I'm proud of that. You know, we do need our community to grow. We are growing as people now because the people in this town love their town, and we want to see a change now, not tomorrow, not next year. We need to do it now before we run out of funds or something happens. But there is money out there. There's a lot of grants, and I appreciate if you take into consideration option 1. Thank you.
No more public comments for item 17.
So I'll bring it back to this council.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
You had a question?
No, I'm ready to vote.
City Manager, did you have something to add?
Yes. Building a facility is an asset, definitely. And one thing that we don't think about this is we don't have a place for emergency situations, evacuation. And a gym is one of those facilities that we can use as a facility for evacuation when people loses their power. One thing that I will add to this facility, and we can look into the budget, into grant funding, there are 2 items that we don't have for this facility. In order for a facility to become like an evacuation center in an emergency situation when people loses their power or something, is a generator. We don't have that one into the project. Number 2, we don't have the funding to do the outside improvements, which means curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. We will come back and a second occasion after later on, maybe we're gonna look for another funding sources to be able to bring those 2 items that are important for the facility. I just wanna be upfront with you that this project that we're presenting today is only for the building, but not for the outside improvements, nor is for the generator. Those are the 2 things that we need. Now, if you decide tonight for the building, the rest of the land will remain the same. If we get the funding from the federal government, then we can come back with you to the additional improvements to see if you want to make some changes in the future, or if we can use part of that portion to do the outside improvements, because by that time we should be able to know if whether or not we're going to get the additional funding. We're crossing our fingers that that's the case, but otherwise we have to look for additional funding sources.
So, and I just want to go back to, when we go back to the state to ask them to amend the scope of this grant, whatever was gathered at this ad hoc, meeting that, happened last night, if we can include that as part of the backup
Yes.
also, I think that would be very powerful to include. And then also what you just stated, having this as a shelter or emergency shelter,
Yes.
which we don't have, I think that will be more, powerful to present to the legislator. I know that, Assemblymember Garcia, when he came down to present the check, he was really eager to see something happening.
Yes.
And I think with this, and also, unfortunately, he's on his way out, but I think that will be something maybe that he will consider, at least he probably gets to see some movement. So.
Actually, in grant competition, for competitive grants, having an emergency center makes it more appealable and score higher. That's what I wanted to inject that option into the facility so that we can be more competitive. It's more aggressive for us to do it that way.
Thank you.
Also, Mayor, may I interject? Also, maybe in the near future, we can have an office space for the police officer, or the police department. Would that also help?
It can be a substation rather than the headquarters. The headquarters are not competitive, only the substation. We can have an office with a desk or maybe 2 little tiny offices in the place. But like I said, we're gonna be looking for the funding and we're crossing our fingers. We're gonna get a schedule with the federal government to see when do we expect to hear from them or whether or not we receive the additional funding, the $5 million. But we're also gonna explore other options. But I just wanna clarify that if you approve it would include to build this facility with a note that it's also going to be serving as a shelter, emergency shelter.
So again, let me just go back to the ad hoc. I just want to make sure that, and thank them also that you go back to the commission also and let them know what happened, because I know that one of the things that we agree that we were going to discuss it with the community. So that was done. So you can take it back, Pat and the rest of the commission, and make sure that you ratify this, because it's going to be important that we continue to engage the community. So with that, I think I believe that there was a motion.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion. I know we talked a lot. This got more complicated. It shouldn't be complicated, okay? Now, I have the report from Pat Reina. I think the citizens spoke. They want this project option number 1. I'll make a motion to approve number 1 with a couple contingencies, okay? Not that, because I know we talked about the center, about emergency center, all that. But what I want to have it done is this. I'm going to vote on a yes. Pat, you hear me? I suggest have an emergency joint meeting like tomorrow, not in 2 weeks. Kick the can down the road, all right? And then have them do what you gotta do and bring it back, and this is our master plan. We're gonna go by this. So we can start signing people, volunteers, contingency plans, all that. But we need a new plan because we're in crutches. I think you can do it, Pat. I think you can do it with Liliana Falomir. That would be only contingencies there, and bring it back. Make it simple, bring it back, and then we can discuss those things. I think that will do good. That's my motion.
Thank you. Get a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Could we clarify the motion?
Yeah. I make a motion to approve option 1.
Don't make it difficult. Just
Okay.
approve. Build it.
Have an immediate meeting with Parks and Recreation and all right? And then formulate a strategic plan. It's going to be a new plan, right? That addresses everything we talked to. It's simple.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
Yes.
Councilmember Gloria Romo is absent. Councilmember Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Tailenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. This is for you. So now we go back to item originally 16, Water and Sewer Rate Study, Interim Finance Director and Public Works Manager, with 3 options. Adopt a plan to modify the water and sewer rates over the next 5 years. B, authorize the city manager to begin Proposition 218, notification process for 45 days. And C, schedule a public hearing to consider adoption of update of water and sewer rates.
Yes, as part of the process to continue providing water and sewer, the city is required that every 5 years a rate study for water and sewer is completed. The city was behind time schedule, and it was also observed in the past audit that we had with the state. And so today, Ms. Falomir is going to be a brief presentation about how the rates are being calculated. We hope that the community give us their feedback today. Prop 218 requires that once that you approve these rates, we have 45 days. We're going to advertise it in the newspaper. We're going to receive comments, and then we'll have to come back for your approval. That's the period of comment that we need to have in order to implement the rates. Now, it is also required under Prop 218 that if we receive 50% of the individual +1 of all the users against Prop 218, the rates do not go through. I just want to make sure that we all understand that. So it's only the negative ones that counts, not the on favor, but the negative ones. With that, Ms. Falomir is going to make the presentation.
Well, just an introduction. Back in March of 2023, the city went through an RFP process to select a financial company that will assist us with the water and sewer rate study. It has taken about a year, but we're now here. And Chris Fisher from Wilton Financial is here, and he'll be presenting the PowerPoint presentation of the rate study.
Thank you, members of the City Council. Mayor, Chris Fisher with Wildan Financial Services, and I'll wait a second until we've got a presentation up there. There we go. And I've got my controller. So again, Mayor, members of the council, Chris Fisher with Wildan Financial Services, and along with my colleague Michael Cronin, we've been working with Lily and the staff here for about the past 8 to 10 months or so on this sewer and water utility rate study. And I'm here to summarize the results of our study and talk about the findings, the recommendations, and then the next steps. So when we started the process, we had several goals. The first and foremost that kind of governed the whole process was the development of a 5-year plan. And the purpose of that was to examine the financial health of both the sewer and water utility and build projections for 5 years to ensure that the water and sewer rates are able to provide funding for operations and maintenance as well as capital projects. funding for the repayment of outstanding debt, and both the water and sewer utilities do have outstanding debt obligations. To ensure that bond covenants that are associated with that outstanding debt are met, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, that the city, or the utilities, each of the two utilities is able to maintain adequate operating reserves to be consistent with the city's financial policies. Finally, to make sure that any rates recommended are equitable and based on the cost of service, that those rates comply with Proposition 218, and that the process that the city goes through to adopt any recommended rates is also compliant with Proposition 218. So as we began the process, there were a number of factors that kind of governed and really weighed heavily into the financial plan and ultimately the recommendations. Primarily, or I should say first, the operating costs and maintenance costs along with personnel costs have increased, as have costs for most things that we experience in our day-to-day lives over the past several years. The operating costs for things like equipment, supplies, power, chemicals, and things like that, and personnel costs are all of those costs associated with staff, operating utilities, and staffing utilities. Meeting the debt service coverage requirement that I mentioned earlier to maintain compliance with existing debt covenants. As I'll get into a little bit more detail, that's not currently the case with either of the two debt issues. We want to ensure that the water and sewer utilities are able to have funding for rehabilitation and repair of aging system components. As the staff report mentioned, some of the pipelines in the ground are coming up on 100 years old, 80 to 100 years old, and so it's important for any utility, not just the city of Calexico, to periodically replace and repair and upgrade components to make sure that the system maintains operational readiness and can provide uninterrupted service to the residents. One of the key factors in the sewer utility was the funding of the upcoming wastewater treatment plant expansion. That's a $46 million project. So as you might imagine, a project of that magnitude financially is going to require additional funding. And finally, the last rate adjustment, also mentioned in the staff report, was 2 years ago. So with almost 2 years of no rate adjustments, the city falls behind a little bit in keeping up with those costs that I mentioned are increasing. So I want to talk a little bit about the methodology, and then we'll get into the projections. So our process really is kind of two parts, summarized on the top by the blue boxes and on the bottom by the green boxes. So first, in the blue boxes, we take a look at historical customer data, historical system data, usage patterns, peak patterns, average usage, all of those things, and we do a reconciliation of that historical customer data with audited financial data to make sure that we can use that customer data to project forward. And then we figure out how much revenue can the city generate for each of the utilities with the existing rate structure. And then we compare that to what we find in the green boxes at the bottom, which is what's the total amount of revenue required for each of the two systems. So that required revenue is made up of operating and maintenance expenses, capital costs, repayment of debt, funding of reserves, and the items that I kind of mentioned at the beginning there. So to the degree that there is more money needed in the green boxes than can be generated by the blue boxes, we need to make recommendations for rate adjustments and a cost of service analysis to support those rates. So the first graph here is an outline overview of the financial situation for the water utility under what we call a status quo situation, meaning with the existing rates without any changes. So in the top set of graphs there are bars. The blue bars represent revenues. The light blue bars represent expenditures, and the solid black line represents the annual net results. So you can see in the first year, again, this is just for water, we're about breaking even, so the solid black line is right on zero. But as you can see, over the 4-year period, the expenditures start to outpace the revenues, and that solid black line representing the results starts to decline. And that feeds into the bottom two boxes. I'll talk first about the one on the left. That's the number of days in reserve, cash in reserve. The financial policy is to maintain 180 days of operating costs in reserve for unforeseen expenses, unexpected events. And you can see that black line is the 180 days, and we start out below that line and decline throughout the 5-year period, which makes sense when the revenues are not enough to cover expenditures in the top. And by the end of the 5-year period, the balance in reserve is almost exhausted. On the bottom right is a representation of the debt service coverage. The black line represents the goal, which is 1.2 times debt service, and I'll explain that. And you can see in each of the 5 years, we start out not even at that goal, and it gets worse progressively over the 5-year period. What debt service coverage means is that you make a commitment to those who lend the city money, the issuers of the bonds, to have at least 1.2 times the debt service coverage. That means for every dollar of debt that you have to repay, you have to have $1.20 of net operating revenue, meaning when you subtract your expenses from your revenues, you have to have $1.20 for each dollar of debt. So you can see that even starting at the beginning, like I said, we're not meeting that commitment. The city's not meeting that commitment, and then it declines over the 5-year period and it gets worse. Similar picture for the sewer utility. Again, same metrics, same measurements we're looking at here. On the top, you see the revenues in each of the 5 years are well below expenditure, so it's a little bit worse than the water utility. Black line representing net results is underneath, is less than 0, meaning there's negative operating results each of the 5 years. So you see in the bottom left, the O&M cash reserve starts out just about at the requirement, but by the 3rd year, it's negative and would be progressively negative out to the 5th year. And the debt service coverage similarly, the black line representing the goal, we're well short of the goal in all 5 years, and it gets a little bit worse as we go from year 1 to 5. So with that, we recommended some changes in the rates to generate the additional revenue to stabilize the financial picture for both of these utilities. So we're going to go through a couple of slides. First, as I mentioned, one of the key drivers is the capital plan, meaning new capital facilities that need to be constructed for each of the water and the wastewater utilities. So the water utility is not quite as heavy as the sewer utility with that wastewater treatment plant project, but you see some pipeline replacements, water equipment, and pump replacements out over each of the 5 years. The pipeline replacement is the bigger one, as well as a number of capital projects in the current year, but those are already scheduled and are in the current year. The future years are the pipeline replacements and the other projects. On the sewer side, you see the wastewater treatment plant expansion project there. That's obviously by far the biggest cost, the highest dollar item. Also some manhole pipeline replacement projects, lift station rehab, and wastewater equipment projects spread out over the 5 years. So it's just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the dollar amounts of some of these projects. And it is anticipated and is assumed in our projections that there would be a bond issue to pay for part of that wastewater treatment plant. We're not the financial advisor, so we didn't work directly on structuring that debt, and the city would work with its financial advisor when that time came. But we did make an assumption that would occur. So let's take a look at now the 5-year financial plan. First, the 5-year path of the rates. Then we'll take a look at the 5-year path of a bill for a typical average resident, and we examined historical usage, and the average single-family resident uses about 1,600 cubic feet of water on a monthly basis, and so we'll look at what the impact on their bill is over the 5-year period. We'll look at the combined water and sewer bill at various levels of flow, look at a comparison with some neighboring utilities, and then finally revisit those financial metrics that I just went over with these recommendations incorporated. So here is the 5-year rate path for water. So you see in the description column, you have the monthly fixed charge broken down for residential as well as all other customers, and volumetric rates per 100 cubic feet for various categories. And so some of the changes that were made, first, the additional dwelling unit charge was standardized with the first dwelling unit charge on a cost of service basis. There was no justification for a charge that equated to an additional dwelling unit using less water. Dwelling units all use the same amount of water, so there was no cost of service support for the additional dwelling unit charge being less. And that was the state auditor had made recommendations to look at the cost of service analysis and make sure that the rates were strictly based on cost of service as required under Prop 218. So then below those residential charges, you see the charges for each size of meter for all other customers, and those start at $20, and then they increment up based on the size of the meter, based on the ability of those meters to pull more and more water through the system, and so the costs are allocated to those meters on that basis. And then you see the volume rates. That's the amount that residents and businesses pay per 100 cubic feet of water, and you see residential, and then the other categories. The 3 green, we broke out additional categories. Those were all lumped in with commercial, but we had sufficient data this time around to create specific categories based on cost of service for those uses, and so now we have 3 new categories of rates. So you see the existing rate column and then the new rate starting in year 2025. And you see for those new categories, their rate was the same as the commercial, manufacturing, industrial, and now starting in 2025, they'll each have their own rate. So this is what the rates look like over the 5 years for water. This is what the rates look like both for existing and over the next 5 years for sewer. The structure remained the same. We've got a monthly fixed charge for residential. Again, we standardized the first dwelling unit rate with the additional dwelling unit rate for the same reason that we did in water. The non-residential rates, those categories represent increasingly higher intensity uses. Those are uses that generate higher strength sewer flows, and so the treatment costs associated with serving those uses is incrementally higher. So the rates are a little bit higher for those, and then you see the volumetric rates below. The fixed charges remain the same for each of those uses because those represent just the cost of the flow. The volumetric rates is where the cost of treating that additional strength effluent is reflected, and that's why the changes were made in the volumetric rates. As you see, those are progressively higher for each of the categories of non-residential rates. Or non-residential. Residential rates do not pay a volumetric charge. They only pay the flat charge at the top. So this is what a typical, the 5-year bill path is. Again, for a residential customer using 1,600 cubic feet of water on average per month. Obviously that would be different, summer and winter, depending on, in winter there's typically less flow than there is in the summer for outdoor irrigation. So you see the existing combined water sewer bills, about $97, a little over $97, and that will, with the proposed rates, would increase to $119.52, which is a difference of a little over $22. And then in the second year, it will increase again, and then the increases in the last 3 years would be considerably less. The first 2 years were more to catch up with the rates not being changed in the past 2 years, and also to get the bond compliance, the rate covenant compliance for that debt service coverage up immediately into compliance, and to avoid what would be a technical default situation, and also in expectation of the city borrowing more money to pay for the water, some of this capital, and specifically the wastewater treatment plant project. It's important to get that bond coverage requirement up because when the financial markets look at the city to potentially lend money in the future, that's one thing they will look at if the city's out of compliance with that, and could result in the city paying higher interest rates when they borrow money in the future. So we wanted to make sure that we took action immediately to get that bond debt service coverage up again, get the reserves funded, and make up for some of the lost rate increases over the past couple of years. Here you can see what the combined bill looks like at different levels of flow. So in the middle is that 1,600 cubic feet per month flow that we just looked at, and that's the same changes. On the far left, you see a customer using 400 cubic feet. So that would be someone not using very much water. Clearly, 400 cubic feet is not a whole lot of water. So maybe single resident or seniors or housing without any outdoor use. And you see their existing bill and their proposed bills that will go up a little less than $20. And then on the far right, you see a user using 2,400 cubic feet of water, which is well above the average, and their bill would go up about $24. So the bill impact is less on the low end, those who use less water, than it is on the high end. And you can see in the middle, the one we went over on the previous graph. And here's a comparison with neighboring utilities. So the green bars represent Calexico's existing rate on the left, and then a couple of spots to the right, the proposed rates. The black line represents the average of all of the utilities that we looked at, and you can see that the city would jump above Holtville and El Centro, but stay below Blythe, Brawley, Heber, and the rest, and stay below the average. So still $119 is still below the average of 127. So still below the average of the utilities we looked at. So now let's take another look at the financial measures that we examined in the beginning. In the beginning, that was status quo with no recommendations incorporated. So this is with the recommendations incorporated. So now you can see for the water utility here, again, we're looking at the same 3 factors. On the top, you see revenues now in excess of expenditures each year, and that black line trending progressively up over the 5 years. On the bottom left, you see that the days in cash reserve, you know, we started at the black line before, but quickly dropped. Now we stay at the black line. And then the debt service coverage, we get that debt service coverage immediately to the goal, and then we get above the goal, which is, again, that's kind of a byproduct of making sure we have enough money to cover our operating expenses and meet the reserves. And so now we're clearly in positive territory and meeting our debt service coverage requirements. Similarly, on the sewer side, the dark blue bars exceeding the light blue bars, so we're generating enough revenue to cover expenditures and to fund our cash reserves on the bottom left, and to make sure we're meeting our debt service coverage requirements on the bottom right. So the next steps. So this evening, the council's not taking any action to implement any rates or to approve the rates. The action tonight is just to set the date for the public hearing, authorize the mailing of the notices out to the residents and customers, informing them of that public hearing and letting them know that they have the opportunity to submit a written protest or attend the public hearing and ask questions and voice any concerns or questions. So the notice, if the council approves, the public hearing date would be set for August 21st. The notice would have to be mailed out by July 3rd. And again, the copy, as Lily mentioned, or maybe the city manager mentioned, the copy of that notice is in your agenda package. That notice will be mailed. I've talked to Lily. We'll be working on getting a translation of that as well. And as the city manager mentioned, if a majority plus one of residents and customers return a written protest to the city can take no further action, cannot approve the rates, cannot override that protest. If there's not a majority written protest, then the council will have the discretion to adopt the rates at their pleasure. So you can't override the protest, but you don't have to adopt the rates if there is no protest. That's at your discretion. So the notices will be mailed out July 3rd, no later than July 3rd. The public hearing will be conducted on August 21st. At the conclusion of that public hearing and the receipt of all the testimony and comments, we'll tabulate the written protest. If there's not a majority written protest, the council will discuss and consider the rates. And if they are approved, they would be implemented for a 9/1 effective date. So that concludes my presentation, and happy to address any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any questions from the council?
Ms. Councilmember Tailinda requested additional information that I have it on my phone, but I'm gonna give it to the city clerk so she can post it over there.
Okay.
Okay, for clarification, if you give me a few seconds.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Okay. I know we have public comments, so when we get ready, we can go to public comments.
Speaker is Javier Gonzalez.
Honorable Mayor, councils, staff, just as an IED director for Division 4, I just want to let the public know that, especially since the recent elections, they sent mailers out accusing me of raising the water rates. IID has nothing to do with water rates in Calexico. The last time that IID raised or dealt with a water rate issue was in 2015, and it actually lowered the water rates for the cities. In 2018, the city of Calexico raised the water rates for 4 years. One of my concerns was that they never presented what was done with that money. I remember I came to say, we're gonna keep you up to date, what we're doing, what we're fixing. I never saw any presentation, what you guys did, what the city did with the rate increase. They were gonna fix several things at the water plant. I mean, I went and took a tour, but the public never saw what was done. So I just wanna make clear that as of today, the IID has not talked publicly about a water rate increase. The last water rate item IID was in 2015, and they lowered the water rate for the cities. Just want to make it clear. I just want to let the council know that the last time the city raised the rates, you could see definitely people no longer taking care of their landscaping everywhere. The backyards, it was green in many houses, no more. And in many houses you see not even the front yards. So just want to make clear that. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jesus Solano.
Jesus Solano, 426 Rosemont, Calexico. I vote for item C. Okay, you need to have a public hearing, and we definitely need to let the community, this is good here for where the ones that are present here who are watching through Facebook. But however, we still need a town hall meeting to where we can inform the community exactly where and how the previous funding was invested. And then on top of this, on this survey, exactly where the money is going to go and why. We need to explain to the community exactly. And I'm gonna go off script a little bit, okay? Going back to what happened to the town hall for fire station number 2, okay? I know, but I'm just referring, okay? If we're going to have a town hall meeting, we need to be serious, not just be up here saying that we're gonna have one. And then at the end, we're just going to try to beat the deadline, come up with excuses. We need to let the community know.
Thank you.
I'd like to table this item, motion to table the item for further information that was requested. And given that the public, and I also believe, should know what the last water rate increases delivered to the community from 2018 and 2022. I'd like to see that information too, what was done with that money before we move forward with a decision.
Anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to say something. I know Mr. Horton, I asked Mr. Horton to come up here because I'm going to piggyback up his statement. Go ahead, Mr. Horton.
Council, my name is Ben Horton, a resident of Calexico lifetime. In reference to these rates increases and things like that, once upon a time we had a commission that would look into these things
Right.
and give a report to the city council. I say that we should reinstitute the commission. It was the Economic and Financial Advisor, which were very happy to serve
Right.
on. I believe
Yeah.
Mr. Garcia was part of it.
Right.
And we used to do the research and come back and give you a report. From there, you could go from there. And I'm in favor of having a town hall meeting. We should always involve the public in decision making. And it works to the best for the city. People can make a decision if they're informed. And if we don't inform our people and we don't put a plan together, no plan is a plan for failure. Thank you.
So, Mr. Horton, if I may add something. So yes, Mr. Solano, Prop 218 mandates we should have a town hall meeting for that, by the way, okay? She is right. Well, right, that's what we're going to have a town hall meeting. We're mandated by the state. Now, the city of Calexico has a general application for bonds. And how do we pay those bonds? And we got to be clear about this, okay? Is we do it through taxes, special charges, such as the water rates. So yes, there's a lot of some moving parts in this thing. So without confusing you too much, because I'm as confused as everybody is. But before I ran for city council, I sat in those chairs, and they were going through what I thought was going to be a water rate hike, and the community was very, very discontent with the way. Not because of the water hike, it's because the transparency, Mr. Solano. The transparency was an issue. And I said, if I ever run for city council, I'm here. And this is one of the things that Camilo and I talked about when we first got elected. We want to be transparent. Okay? And moving forward with that, yes, the Economic Development Financial Advisory Commission existed at one point, and you were part of that, Mr. Benny Horton. And I thank you for being in, and I thank you for stepping up again if you want to be part of that. So yes, we should have that, because they exist, according to the bylaws that we had back then, They exist for that specific purpose to advise us to conduct a study, so they make recommendations to us. Okay? So moving forward, I think we're in the right place right now. I don't know what's the hurry on this or anything else, but we still, I know Mrs. Alinda asked for table this item. I'm in agreement with that too. Perhaps maybe we can put together and start working with the Financial Commission, Mr. Horton, whoever he wants to come in and help us, and we can be eventually have the town hall meeting and specifically address the concern for the community. But I think anybody else will agree with us. We want to be transparent. Where's the money's going to go? Where's it come from? All that. So I think that will suffice. Thank you.
One question that I have, and I totally in agreement with that. Quick question for you. On June the 12th, we're going to have budget hearings.
Right.
Would you like us to add this item on the 12th or the following week? Because we would like to we will notify to the public that we will be having this workshop for the public at that time. Do you want it on the 12th or the following week?
That will be as soon as possible, so by that time we can have the additional information that is being requested and move on this.
Yes.
And, in regards to everything else, I think that the hearing is, as part of the item and the law also that has to happen.
So the
it will be an
explanation,
opportunity.
yes, so the explanation was given here, but Ms. Dalinda is also requesting how this project has been how this race have been impacted with the water shut off that was notified in the newspaper a few weeks ago. And so in order for us to do that, we would like to notify the public about that issue and bring it back on the 12th with the notification already out. And in the meantime, what we can do, we can work with the committee. Who's in the committee? Mr. What is he? Love. Yes.
The Financial Commission?
Yes, but I don't think we have all the individuals with us.
Are you still part of that, Mr. Horton? You want to be part of it? Okay, you're going to be part of it.
We can't really be appointing people right now.
No,
Right.
you can't. So we can.
I know that.
So what we can do, and I would like to see if it's possible,
Right.
Ms. Dalinda, if you want to join us with that meeting, and maybe another city council member that would like to join us to work together,
Right.
put it in a way that you feel that is satisfactory for you, and then we'll bring it on the 12th before we advertise it.
Okay, thank
That's
you. So let's move on with that, with tabling until we get additional information.
Yes.
So I have a first.
A second.
Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
Yes.
Councilmember Gloria Romo is absent. Councilmember Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 18, appointment for general commissioners to the Calexico Housing Authority Board, City Clerk.
I'll make a motion. We have, how many applications we have?
4 applications.
Oh, you want to say something? I'll make a motion to appoint.
Do you have something to say?
If I may, we received a letter today
Okay.
from one person, an individual, and I forwarded the email to you because it was directed to you. Someone wanted to be appointed, Cavada, last name was
okay.
Cavada. Yes, it's in the email. We received it today, so I don't know if that will satisfy the process. There's no application, it's just a letter of interest.
They received a hard copy as well.
Did you include
Yes.
that one on the list?
We're
Okay.
all included.
Okay, good, thank you.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Mariano Valenzuela.
You have a second?
I second it.
Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
Yes.
Councilmember Gloria Romo is absent. Councilmember Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 20, authorize city manager to sign change order number 4, 5, 6, and 7 with Mountain Cascade
We're
Inc.
missing number 19, I'm sorry.
Oh, 19, excuse me. Discussion action regarding the placement of donated art piece Velocidad by Eduardo Aguillon, recreation manager. You're up again, Ms. Gerardo.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. As you are probably aware, we got a donation of a piece of art when we were celebrating Chinese New Year this year. It was donated by Manuel Aullón, and he's the son of late artist Eduardo Aullón Gerardo. We took this item to the Community Services Commission, and we discussed possible options for you. They are providing their recommendation. All 3 recommendations, what we did, we sent out an email to all facilities here in the city, asking department heads if they had any recommendations, if they wanted to showcase this piece of art. And we took those options to the commission. All 3 options are in the Cultural Arts Center, which is very appropriate. There's different locations in the community center, and the commission voted for one of those locations, and it is up to you if you would like to choose that one location. All 3 locations are in the community center, so all 3 are good. It just depends on in what section of the art center you would like that piece.
Any comments? No? Comments from this council?
Motion to approve location option 1.
I believe they had a really interesting discussion on that, Ms. Gerardo.
Yes,
So I'll go with what they suggested. I know that they even decided where, so I'll go with the recommendation that they have, whatever that was, because I know they were just excited to see that piece.
Yeah.
And that they even said that, where they wanted to have it. So I'll go with that. So, motion to approve. Do I get a second?
And just for you to know, it's location number 1 in the backup document.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call?
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
Yes.
Councilmember Gloria Romo is absent. Councilmember Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Now we go to item 20. Authorize city manager to sign change order number 5, 6, and 7 with Mountain Cascade Inc. in the amount of $948,811.78 for the new river improvement project, Calexico Reach, Public Works Manager.
The New River project has been a project that we have had some obstacles along the way. Right now, the project is approximately 70 to 75% completed, but some of the obstacles that we have had it has been for environmental issues and also right-of-way, which right-of-way we already have control of, but the environmental issues belong to sometimes having owls. So it has had to stop the project a little and put on standby. So a part of change order 4, 5, and 6 includes standby of equipment, personnel, because of those issues that we have had for the New River project. Also, because of the rain, we also the contractor provided a quote to do an access road. So, because if they didn't do that type of road, and it they would have to wait until it was completely dry. But this facilitated them to continue the pipeline of the 72-inch pipe. Also, before the project started, GSA began doing a parking lot, so that also eliminated the construction zone that the contractor needed to do. So now they have to rent down a special crane to take out the sheet piles of in the trash screen diversion structure. So that is also part of the change order. And if you have any technical questions, we have Carlos Beltran from Dynamic Engineer, who is our construction manager here.
I also would like to mention that all those change orders had been reviewed by the state of California. The state of California, which is Natural Resources, the Office of Natural Resources, which is the funding source, they have a set of engineers on their side, and what we do before we proceed with any of the changes, they have to review them and approve them. If they believe that it's not accurate or correct, they will not approve it, but in this case, they are approved by them.
comments? Public-
Jesus Solano.
Jesus Solano, 426 Rosemont, Calexico. Okay, I just heard what staff stated, okay? I'm not an engineer, but you should have some questions. You as council members up here should have some questions pertaining on these changes of orders, okay? To me, it seems that it's like an open account. Whatever they want, they just keep on asking. I'm not saying that you're getting the incorrect information here. I'm just putting you guys on the spot. You need to really do a research on these. Make sure that we're not just giving that money away, because it's going to continue. It's it seems that here Calexico has come in, changes their orders, no problem. You just ask and we'll approve it. Okay. Don't forget that's taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Mr. Solano. Anybody else? Comments from the council?
Yes, just want to comment to Ms. Colio. So, my understanding that change order, they have to meet a certain, we can't, in other words, let me try to word this. So this, when you do a change order, has to be within a threshold to pass a percentage. It can't be past a certain percentage. Does that make sense? Martin?
You cannot, so the way it works per
Be-
every
hold on.
con,
Let me finish, because Mr. Solano asked a real question. Is that change order after change order after change order, well, there's regulations in place, right? That we have to, and it doesn't meet the certain criteria. This is why we have you, we have the state of California with mandates say, if it passes a certain percentage, you can't authorize it. So I'm asking, does this fall within those parameters?
there is a difference between what is allowable by state and what the city council approved the city manager to approve change orders. There is a portion, less than 5% or 5%. Anything about that amount, it has to come to the city council for approval.
Right.
I cannot have that authority to make those change orders. Now, what we're talking about over here is a combination of different situations. If you recall, in July 2022, when I arrived to the city, I arrived with a bid document, a bid for this project with $42 million, but the city only have $28 million available to proceed with the project. I came back and I asked two city council members to join me to a meeting with the Natural Resources and DWR, explaining that the project was upside down, that the city didn't have the funding available. If I recall correctly, it was one of the former city council and Mayor Garcia. And I have them present so they can see my argument with the state that I didn't want to proceed with this project if we didn't have the total amount of the funds. What they wanted to do is to give me a letter of, we're going to give you the money later. And I said, no, I need an agreement. I need the funding in place, otherwise we cannot proceed. In addition to that, the issue was financial liquidity. Financial liquidity means I have the funding in my pocket so I can upfront the expenses and then get reimbursed. That was a big issue because this is a $46 million project. Just to give you an idea, the city is only $20 million in general fund. One of the payments was $6 million. We don't have that capacity to upfront that money and wait until the state pays us back. So what we did for 6 months, we negotiated with the state that they would give us the money in advance before we paid the contractor. That took us like 3 months. In addition to that, the state took 6 months to be able to allocate $18.5 million additional for this project. And it only happened until Eduardo Garcia, Assemblyman, he himself committed to bring the Secretary of Natural Resources to our office and discuss with his staff on Zoom to make sure that we have those elements so that we can proceed with the project, because we went up to bid again to see if the project was going to be viable, or maybe with the changes that we made, it would be cheaper. It was only $41 million instead of $42 million. So what the state did, finally they gave us the additional $18.5 million, and we were able to proceed. We came to the city council and it was approved. With the approval that you made, you set aside a portion for change orders. But if you think about all that time that happened, the project was already delayed and to a certain point. The season for the burrowing owl, it was in place when we began construction. The way that this project is done, based on the CEQA document, it requires mitigation. Mitigation means if you have a nest present at the time of the construction, you need to bring an environmental person to assess the issue, to see if there are eggs or they have to wait until they hatch, or remove them before the construction continues. If you see in the report, each one of the change orders has an explanation of all those situations. But not only that, we have two storms, Hillary, and we have the January 2024 storm. Hillary didn't cause that much damage. But the January 2024 storm, if you remember, Mexicali opened the gates for raw sewage to come all the way to the new, release water to the new river, that flooded the construction of the project. Not only what it was visible, but underground, it was completely flooded. And so for that reason, that was another delay in the project, but also issues that they had to address. All those changes that you see over here are a reflection on all those situations. It's not that we intended for all those things to happen. The project has been delayed for many reasons, for natural situation, for the owl that is present, and for the delays in the process. So now we're to the point, the construction company has made every single effort not to delay this project more than 1 month. Actually, the deadline was to complete the project in December, and now we have a deadline to January 2024, only 1 month, because they really want to push forward to complete this project. I know it's difficult for you to accept change orders. I totally get it. I would not like to be in this position myself. Believe me, this is not the way that we want to operate. But unfortunately, this is the type of project. You're dealing with a project that, to begin, this project shouldn't be in the city of Calexico with such budget of $20 million in general fund. This is a huge project for the capacity that we have. Ms. Lily Falomir, myself, with the engineers on board, it's all you have. The engineer that we have, the person applied to Caltrans, and it went to Caltrans. Can't help it with that. So it's us trying to make those projects happen. This is a project that for many years people were advocating. For 50 years people were advocating for this project. It has taken many years. This project began in 2016, and we're here today trying to make it work. I just want you to consider that today, and continue with your questions if you have any more.
So basically, we had 3 uncontrollable situations. You had the owl situations that work had a halt because the hatching of the eggs, I'm assuming, or the moving of the nest. Then you had the natural, obviously, situation with Hillary, and but nothing was added. It was just delays because of these 3 situational incidents, correct?
Moving pieces around, yes.
So again, I'm going to stay focused on my question, and thank you for your remarks, Ms. Colio. But I'm asking, there's a threshold by government code allows us to have a certain percentage. Now I understand that we had all this unforeseen circumstances, but we have to. I think what I was reading here right now is that the acceptable, which is it's between 8% and 15%. I'm asked the question: is, are we within that threshold? Okay, and I didn't think I get an answer. I want to know where the change order occurred and who verified that it's within range. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking about the weather, about what happened over there. I'm asking about that change order in particular because contractors. Now I don't know. We have experts for that. I don't know that. I just want to asking the experts here and our administrators. I want to make sure that we're going to make this change order. It could be not allowable within range. Okay, that's what I'm asking, Ms. Colio. If we don't have that answer, we should table and come back till we have that answer.
No, we do have an answer. So every single change order is submitted by the contractor, reviewed by the construction engineer, which is another another engineering company that oversees this, that the project is done according to the plans. In addition to that, we have on a daily basis a person from DWR present in the project, observing that we're doing the project as per the plans, per the specifications. and per the CEQA document as well, which calls for mitigation in this case. So all those individuals are together in the process. It's not us just asking for the change orders. What is the amount, the maximum amount? The maximum amount will be depending on how the project moves forward. If tomorrow we have another storm, or we have an earthquake, a massive earthquake, and affects the project, there will be more change orders because it's out of our control. But every single change order has been reviewed, not only by one individual, not because the contractor asked us to make that change order. We asked the engineer to observe as well. We had 2 engineers. We had the designing engineering company, which is Michael Baker. So there's a set of 4 engineers in total. The state, one for the city, another one construction manager, and the individuals that are doing the construction company, this construction.
Thank you, Ms. Colio. I think this could have been avoided if, I think you're the gatekeeper of the taxpayers' money, but I think this could have been avoided if you would have had the contractor show up and explain to us. Because we're asking all these questions which I don't even want to say you're sidetracking, you just know the answer. And I appreciate your effort, but I think if we have the contractors here, they can explain to us. That would be much better. I'm not comfortable making a decision on this because of the change order. It's a lot of money, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor,
He's
I
there.
have a question. I'm sorry, but you mentioned that it was 15%. Did you say 15%? This project is 40 million. So 15% is 6 million. So we are within the threshold of the 3 million. Because if these change orders are approved tonight, there's only been change orders about 3 million.
Yes.
Okay, but
quick
okay.
question.
But I understand that, but you're speaking on behalf of the contractors. I'm speaking on behalf of the taxpayers. That's public money.
If I can just interject, we can get a motion to.
I make a motion to table it.
No, to extend the meeting first.
Oh, okay, well, take the meeting and table it too.
Yes.
No, you gotta do one more.
I know, just
You know,
extend the
so,
meeting.
Second for the extension of the meeting to,
What, another hour?
okay.
Yes.
I guess 10:35.
Yes.
So, roll call.
Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno,
Yes.
Member Gloria Romo is absent, Councilmember Victor Legaspi,
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda,
Yes.
motion passes.
And you were going to say something?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I know we have the consulting engineer out here. I don't know if you want to come and double team
Yes.
with our manager. Who's recommending the change orders? Who's recommending it?
The way that it works in every construction is the contractor finds during the construction an issue. It addresses the issue with the construction manager. Then we all go in the meeting and start reviewing the changes and analyzing the changes. In this case, we have West Engineering, our engineer on our site, and we have also the designing engineer company, which is Michael Baker.
So because I don't see the recommendations here, I just see discussion analysis. So it's all these ones recommending
All
it?
those, yes,
Okay.
and it's approved by the state.
Mm.
Before we move forward, we have to consult with the state because actually they have a person in-house observing the project.
Yes. My next question, I understand the unforeseen circumstances, but what about the foreseen ones? And the burrowing owls, I think, qualifies as a foreseen circumstance, so.
Not necessarily, because if you recall, in July 2022, the bids were due at that time, and we had to reject the bids for 6 months. So the season changes. The burrowing owl has a season, and it goes in waves. So by that time, you cannot foresee that. When you have an environmental person that takes care of their credential very hard, and that individual is telling you, you cannot proceed because I'm observing that there's a owl present over there or a nest, you need to stop. We all have to stop. We don't want to stop. Ask the contractor, because he wasn't happy when he has to stop every single time that we find a burrowing owl.
You know, I understand.
Yes, so that's the reason. Those are unforeseen circumstances. And like I said, the project was delayed 6 months before to start.
My next question, so I'm looking at these and the dates go back a little bit. If you can clarify, has the work been done or will it be done upon approval of these change orders?
Ms. Salome?
No, well, the dates are for the standby during those
Right.
periods.
Okay, so then that's what they're charging us
Yes,
for
correct.
it. So it already happened, and they're charging it.
It was in February.
And we need to pay it. Well, they're requesting us to pay it. Okay. All right.
Construction company is over there, and so is the engineer.
Yes, I
Yes,
know. I'm looking
construction.
at them.
So anybody else? No. I know Ms. Moreno had a motion to table. Is there a second for that?
I just want to let you know that if these change orders are not approved tonight, the contractor will come back and charge us for not approving, and it's about $8,000 to $10,000 a day.
A day, because we stopped the
So-
project.
Because again, we're stopping the project in order for us to move forward.
So this is, and I know we have to take a vote on that. But
Yes.
before we do that, I do want to say something. I know that if there is someone that really irks change orders, it's me. I think that has been, one of the things that I always have. But in this, I know that it just pains me to see all of these change orders. I know that we need to see backup, we need to see these things, but some of these occurrences happen, naturally also. But also what I would like to see as part of backup, this is for future, maybe the approval of the state. And it's not that, I see that here is just, invoices asking us to pay, and then where that money's gonna come from. I mean, just the invoices and the breakdown. But there is not an approval that was attached from the state that they say yes, and it's not that I'm questioning the validity of what was stated, right? But that gives me also a peace of mind, and also to tell the community that, there are more than one set of eyes looking at this. And I know that has been said, but I do also understand, what was just said, that we stop this project, we're gonna get hit, on a daily basis. So with that, I know there's a motion. I don't know if
I'm going to go ahead and rescind it. I don't want to spend $8,000 more, so I'm going to vote yes on
Per
that.
day. Per day.
day.
Yeah.
8
Yeah.
to 10,000.
Okay, I changed my vote.
Before we vote, can we have staff just touch upon and clarify what you have contingencies for in that funding, and how much has been spent and how much we can spend? You did talk about it, the $6 million and all that.
contingency, fund for this project?
For this project, yeah, so we're in the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how do contingencies work with projects?
Well, since, as Ms. Colio stated, we have in total $46 million for the project. 10% is contingency for just construction, but because we haven't used all the money in certain areas of administration or, let's say, environment permitting, then that money can be transferred back to construction. So that would be the 15% threshold.
Okay, thank you.
So, I know Councilman Legaspi presented his motion. Do I have a second on the original motion?
I second.
So you second to table?
Wait, are you I'm sorry.
No, I'm not tabling it.
He rescinded.
No, he rescinded it. I thought we were.
Okay.
No. So I made a
don't
motion, I
take
need a
it.
second. No second.
No second for that. So do I have another motion? Motion to approve? Well, I made a motion to approve. Do I have a second for that one?
Yes.
Roll call.
Mayor Camilo Garcia.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Javier Moreno.
No.
Councilmember Gloria Romo is absent. Councilmember Victor Legaspi.
Yes.
Councilmember Lisa Thailenda.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now we move to item number 21. Renovations to Calexico Fire Station. Number 2, Public Works Manager. Options A, authorize the city manager to sign change order number 6 through 12 with A&M Quality Builders in the amount of $247,927 for renovations to Calexico Fire Station number 2. Option B, or letter B, adopt budget amendment resolution for fund number 255, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, in the amount of $247,927 for Calexico Fire Station number 2. Public Works Manager, again, you're up.
You might as well stay there. You got 22 also.
So on a biweekly basis, city staff as well as, and when I mean city staff, it's city manager, public works department, planning, building, and fire department. They join us on a progress construction meeting. And there we discuss the items that the contractor or our inspector has found, or items that, because this building was built in the 1980s, it's not up to code. So during our last construction meeting, there has been some items that the fire department as well as our building inspector has seen that are again not up to code, or items that are already deteriorated, and it is the good time right now to change them or modify them. For example, change order number 6, the fire station has 2 full restrooms and then 1 half restroom. The fire department, the 2 full restrooms, they have a tub. So fire department personnel said, is there a way that we can remove the tub because we don't use the tub? You know, they just want a standing ADA compliant shower. So that's what we are bringing you before you. Also, another item is the windows. We need to bring them up to California code. So we are requesting to update the windows and the window frame. Another item is, for example, the interior doors. They are really deteriorated, and it's recommended by the city manager that we go ahead and replace them. Another item is the lighting. We have to bring it up to code to Title 24, which is the energy conservation. Another item that happened is the fire alarm, fire sprinkler alarm. The fire station currently does not have one. We want to bring it up to code, so we are requesting that to be upgraded. The other item is the cabling of the data, the internet, the telephone. We want to make sure that the facility has all the improvements where once it's completed, the fire department can go in, connect their laptops, connect their phones, connect, you know, even for cable when they're not working. Another item is that they also requested is in the office area, they want an area where they can do it's convert the existing storage room to a personal protective equipment washroom. So that's an item that they're requesting, since right now the fire station, we can go ahead and do that. So that's the change orders that we're requesting for you in front. Ms. Colio has requested an additional $500,000 to the state, and right now we're waiting for a response. We're submitting all the reports that need to be submitted, but in the meantime, what we would like to do is use ARPA funds from the Border Friendship Park to pay for the $247,000 change orders.
I would like to mention also that the fire department, which is here today, they walk with us through the facility. Council member, Mayor Pro Tem Moreno was also in the facility, and he was able to see all the progress. While they were there, we were realizing that the building was so old and out of compliance, and things that they needed, like the washroom that they requested, it was not in existence. It was never in existence, and it's something that they need. In addition to that, the sprinklers would be very costly, and so what we're doing is the alarm system, like the smoke detectors, all the alarms that detects any of those issues. That's the fire alarm system. The lighting, I was just having that conversation with Mr. Iñiguez a few minutes ago. The lighting keeps changes with time. This building was 1985. At that time, the lighting was completely different than what the lighting that we use today. It only makes sense for us to change everything so that it becomes in compliance. We need to make sure that the building is up to compliance, especially because it's a fire station building. And I know that has been some conversation like we're spending this money for a facility that is used. But the reality is, I wish we would have $6-7 million, demolish the whole building and build a new one. But we don't have that luxury. What we have is only the possibility to inject, to get a brand new facility, because this is gonna be a brand new facility, up to compliance, up to code, for $1.5 million, so $1.6 million if you wanna call it that way.
Thank you. Have any comments?
Jesús Solano.
Jesus Solano, 426 Rosemont, Calexico. And like the first responder has stated always, if they don't have it, we don't have it. Since day one, we started pressuring for station number 2 to be open. And I'm all for it to be open. The only issue that I really have is the way this thing was handled. Okay, it seems that just last meeting and right now we're coming to sense that it was built back in 1985. From day one, we knew that that building was not in compliance. Okay. For all these unforeseen situations, I don't agree with that. Now, what the first responder are requesting is to add on, there's no problem there. But these other unforeseen situations, I brought it up to the previous councils meetings that we had. Are we going to come back and get ARPA funding? I was assured no, 100%, okay? And most of the community was under that understanding. Now we have an understanding and we submitted for $500,000. Let's hope we get it. If we don't get it, well, we got that ARPA funding, $250,000 that was supposed to be for Border Park, when we always told you, to invest somewhere else. It's a good investment to invest it in fire station number 2. Don't get me wrong, okay? But the way this thing was handled, that's my concern. That's the issue that I have. Now, out of that amount, I think we have $2,000 left. And my question now is, if something else comes up unforeseen, are we going to rate now Rodriguez part to comply with that? Where are we going to get the funding? That's my other question. Are we going to rate the other parts?
Thank you, Mr. Solano. Anybody else?
Oscar Pesqueira.
Oscar Pesqueira. Good evening. Congratulations, Mr. Legaspi, Mrs. Talinda. You're coming into this big storm here, so wish you luck. I know it's a very sensitive subject, change orders. All of these here from the fire department, as Mr. Solano said, it's not things that we want to make sure we have because we want to be cool or we just want to throw one more wrench in there. These are all things that we have currently at the news station. We just want to make sure that we're safe, we're healthy to be able to provide. I know it's very sensitive. I know it's time. I know though that the city doesn't have $7-8 million to build us a new station. We would really want that. But we're talking about a depleted department already. Personnel, equipment, now the fire station. We really need your help. We need your help to help them. So we can please consider, strongly consider, and move forward. Thank you very much for your time. Good night.
Anybody else? Bring it back to
Yeah, a couple comments. Ms. Colio, we hired the whole group as a consultant, right?
Yes, sir.
How much did we pay them? Or was it retainer? Or?
Right now, their agreement is
49.
49.
Yes.
No,
No.
minus the 18.
Minus the 18, yes. That's the second one is the 18.
About 100,000?
It'll be 140,000.
It would be 149 if
100,
city council
200,
considers
250.
it.
Yes.
Do we have a building permit for this? Do we ever get a building permit?
Yes.
We do have one?
Yes, we don't charge ourselves though.
Thank you. Okay, so we have 7 change orders again.
Yes.
And here's what I'm alluding again, okay? We have 2 city employees who have no experience. They're not experts. They're not contractors. I'm not a contractor. Is there any contractor in the audience? Because I like to ask those questions. And we don't have whole group sending a contractor over here or an expert at $140,000, and they can't show up here and give me answers. Oh, there he is. Ah, there's Mr. Holt right there. Yeah. So we have questions, right? Seems like they're doing all the talking, and in all fairness to them, we have all these questions, but nobody comes out and answers those questions. So, also the state code allows us to administratively hire and get our own building inspectors and do our own inspectors on buildings, but we pay somebody to do it. So why we're not having that person? And I don't know where's Mr. Chuck Cortez, but he is a building inspector, and I think we have another building inspector, right? So the point is this, is that there's a lot of questions that come up, and it's always going to rush to things, change orders and all this, and we have no expert opinion. And we're using this gentleman's here who gets dressed every day in public safety and risks their life to keep us safe, and we're using a pawns just because we want to give them a fire department. Well, yes, I want to give you a fire department, but I also want to do the right thing because this is taxpayers' money, okay? And we don't have checks and balances. We're going to do this again at a tune 7 change orders, well, 20 change orders. That's my personal perspective. Don't take me wrong. I want a new fire department. But like I said about 3 or 4 months ago, the more we dig, well, we find more funds. And I even suggested at one point, why don't we just build a new fire department? Because what's going to happen, we're just going to, on the outside, kind of, we may look good on the inside, but it's not really going to solve the issue. Because we started from a mold, and it was dressed 2 years ago. And now we got a bunch of other things. So for me, I think we should do a better job of addressing all those issues to avoid all this talks for 2 hours on something that should be done from the get-go. I think we should be doing a good job. So no offense, Ms. Colio. No offense to anybody. That's my comments. Thank you.
I have a comment. Was the fire department involved when you guys started working on this? Was Eddie Ainza involved?
Yes.
Did these items never occur to Eddie that you guys needed it? It's just a question.
They were all being involved in asking for the items as we go for the project. And I would like to briefly explain the situation of why this project happened the way that it happened. If you recall, the previous city council approved $500,000 to mitigate the mold in that facility. When you go into a facility to mitigate the mold, Ms. Falomita and I, we went and requested bids. When we requested the bids, each company, the 3 companies, showed up to the facility. At that time was Chief Avila with us, and they inspected the facility. One of them showed up with a thermal image, and what he found, and that's why his bid was so high, is that all the walls were compromised with mold. Now, this mold has been growing up in that facility for the last 5 years before you guys move out, right? So we're talking about almost 7 years. It's not 2 years ago, it's 7 years from now. Those firefighters live in that house in mold before, until we removed them. When I arrived, a month later, they were removed from that facility. So what the construction company told us, the mold mitigation company told us, they said, I can do the mold mitigation, which basically what it is they tear apart the walls, they bleach the walls from the inside, but they don't replace the walls. They just tear them apart. They just demolish everything, and they clean everything, they test it, and you're good to go. However, this company told us, it makes no sense for you to do that because the problem that you have is the roof. And that roof is full of mold. You need to replace the entire roof. And if you remember, the whole facility the roof is all like in a piece. So what we did, we requested the funding for replacement of the roof, mold mitigation, and then reconstruction of the walls that will be demolished. But then the kitchen was compromised as well. And then also was the carpet. the carpet was full of mold as well. So seeing all those things coming our way, 500,000 wasn't going to make it. So what I did, I went and asked the state, can you please revive and give us the money that we lost that was originally allocated to the city, but because we were out of compliance at that time, out of compliance with CDBG funds since 2014, we were not able to touch that money. So I asked them if they can please give us some of the money back, and they agree. They give us $611,000. That money, to bring it back with the approval from federal government through the state, it took us 6 months to get that money back, and we finally got the agreement. The only problem that they said to us is, you only have this time to complete the project. If you cannot complete this project with this timeline, don't take the money. So what we did is, we went out to bid, tried to get an engineer to give us the specs. The engineers told us it's gonna take us 3 months or 4 months to get you the plans. And doing the numbers with the timeline, we will not be able to meet the deadline, which is October 31st. So what we decided to do is, okay, can you give us the scope of work, whatever is visible that we can fix? And everything that was addressed was that was visible. But we knew that it was a risk with the air conditioner, with the sewer line, because we didn't have time to do the inspection. It's called it's a camera that you send inside of the sewer line. And there was another item as well. So what they did is they did the scope of work to the best of their understanding from their side, and knowing that we will have change orders in the future because there were unknown things in the facility. When we opened the walls, the walls were open, the electricity cables, they're all fine. They're all working. None of them were failing, but they were out of compliance. And that's the reason why we have those change orders.
I have some technical questions. I don't know if the construction team management, Mr. Holt, can answer them, or who do you have answering technical questions for building code?
So we have Jack Holt present.
Yeah, okay.
Jack, do you wanna come, please? Yes.
Mr. Holt, they have technical questions.
Mm-hmm.
Just before, I would like to, I think to answer your original question, there's been so many change of arms in our department, because this project started with Chief Avila, Zainza, he's gone, and we currently have Sorosco. So there's a lot of changes, and then new personnel come in, and there's a miscommunication, misunderstanding, and it's really pushing us back. But there's been a lot, and this goes to the personnel issue, which is a whole totally different problem, but I think this is where it comes from. We had all these chiefs, all these people coming in and out of the problem, but here we are today. Thank you.
So in the backup and here, the change order is being requested. Is fire sprinkler and fire alarms required for this tenant improvement? If so, could you provide the specific codes from the California Building Code?
I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, so is fire sprinklers and fire alarms required for this tentative improvement? If so, what
It's required by
specific
the
codes?
code. Just some background, as Esperanza was saying, when I was first contracted in January, I told Esperanza that there was no way we could get plans put together that quick and specs. You're getting grant money through the federal government. You have to go through a bidding process. So that's at least a 6 months design, 2 months bidding, probably 9 months construction. That project is about a year and a half under normal circumstances. So as Esperanza was saying, and in my contract, I put in that we would prepare a set of plans was gonna be assumed that things that were improved, would be brought up to code. Things that weren't gonna be improved would not be brought up to code. You got into the construction, and your building inspector said, nope, everything's up to code. Well, that changed the whole game plan. And that's where you're at. So you're making those choices. Now, yeah, you do have to have a fire alarm system if you want to bring it up to code. But you didn't have a fire alarm system before. That's a 1989 building. That's 30 years ago.
So
You didn't
it's,
have computer systems. You
yeah.
didn't have phone systems. You don't have the systems you have now.
and I'm gonna interrupt you.
So-
I ask because here we have the change orders and it's being requested by the fire department.
By the what?
It says here that it's requested by the fire department.
Oh, the reason we would put it this way is because we were having a discussion of sprinklers or fire, and
Well,
then,
the thing is, the part of complying with code is, and no offense, their area of expertise. So why is this being requested by them and not by the company that we've
Because I've
hired to
explained
provide
to you
construction
that
management?
I have it in the contract. We're not bringing up to code things that aren't changing. So that's up to you. You're making that decision.
Okay, so,
If you're making that decision, then approve the change order. If you don't, then don't.
all right,
See, don't bring it up to code.
okay, are you going to be able to answer the questions following? Yes, okay. What's the current status of the windows that are mentioned and what are the specs of the new windows? They're not provided here, they're just asked, and we don't have plans or any details. So how can we make these approvals without more information for the requests?
Oh, they'll turn them in as they can do it two ways. They can turn it in as a submittal document, or they can build it in the field per the code.
So we don't have plans right now that we're going by?
You have plans that were done in 4 weeks, so you could get the thing out to bid to meet the deadline to keep your grant money,
So
or you lose your grant.
I did ask for those plans. They haven't been provided. And they weren't included as backup. I'd like to see what those plans have, what they covered and didn't cover. So, you know, if we don't have the specifications of windows or other details, it's very difficult to approve change orders and we have very limited time. Yeah.
I didn't have time to get that detailed set of plans together, and it's in my contract. So, once again, you know, if you want to go push the show, I can do it.
one of the recommendations, so what happened was the following. As we were opening the walls, the construction company was opening the walls, realizing that the mall was more expanded than what is expected, and seeing the walls inside and the electricity and all the issues once they open the walls, my first instinct is bring the inspector. I need to hear from him. And he looked at me and said, you shouldn't bring him over here because this building was never inspected. He said, you opening the doors for me to say something, I'm not gonna approve this project. So I have to find out a solution. And the solution was as-built plans during the construction, which means you had the walls open, you start replacing the cabling,